Shan, كيف حالك? After the intermission, right? بإذن الله. طيب. Either or, even afterwards, either or, inshallah. You have to have a cup. You may have a cup, please. ماشي. جزاك الله خيرا. الكتاب من أمس هل نزل؟ هل نزله؟ أنا قلت نزل عشان نحتاجه. نشوف ممكن هو حملها ممكن. أستغفر الله أستغفر الله أستغفر الله أستغفر الله. ما نزل. طيب خلينا نزل نحمل الآن. اكتب تدوين السنة PDF. أول نتيجة يكون وقفية. أيوة أحسنت. جزاك الله خيرا. بعدين باوربوينت هذه لا. طيب معلش ممكن نشوف لأن غير متعود على أبل ها؟
نعم كل من الهواء سوا شيخ.
كيف الارتجاء؟
صوت ماشي اسمع إن شاء الله.
ماشي. طيب طيب هذه صغير بعدين كذا. كيف نصير فول فيو؟
فول فيو
هذه الظاهر صح؟ أيوة جميل. وبعدين escape كيف تحت حتى أيوة
مجرد تنزل.
أيوة كينوت ها؟
كينوت.
جميل جميل. طيب طيب جزاك الله خيرا. تفضل. أخرجته حتى لا يكون يعني
نعم.
unprofessional. حياكم الله. طيب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Following our normal tradition and our ritual practice of what's our tradition? Review. To make what? Review of yesterday. Of the second and last session of yesterday, last night. طيب. Bismillah. We have a few minutes. And as a benefit, the review session, or our review session, the review session that we do before the classes, not like we're studying for an exam. We're talking about like muraja of the past dars, the previous dars. We like to do it with stamina, quick, exciting, 1, 2, hop, skip, and a jump, move forward. Nothing boring, nothing small, nothing slow, cumbersome. The mudhakara is supposed to be what? Mun'isha. It's not supposed to be mumilla, yani. Quick. Everybody got this? Very important with regards to the necessary energy for the lesson. فهمنا هذا؟ مهم جدا. It's like having a good breakfast in the morning. Breakfast is not supposed to be too heavy, in which it bogs you down. Nor is it supposed to be too light, in which you're hungry in an hour or two. Something that's efficient, energy food. How you start your day is critical. Everybody understand this or not? The Prophet ﷺ, he taught us this. He taught us the importance of the morning and the importance of nourishment in the morning, starting with Salat al-Fajr, and what happens when you oversleep for Salat al-Fajr, and what the shaitan does, and how a person's morning and day will be based off of that. طيب, khairan inshallah. So with that being said, what did we talk about yesterday? Last night, briefly. Fourth and the 5th century. Right. What else did we talk about? Fadl al-Sunnah, virtue of the Sunnah, makanat al-Sunnah, status of the Sunnah. What else? The mawaqif ashab al-ahwa wal-firaq min al-Sunnah al-Nabawiyya. Mawqifu or mawaqifu ashab al-ahwa wal-firaq min al-Sunnah al-Nabawiyya. The position and the attitude of the different people of desires and the sects, the groups with regards to the Sunnah, accepting it, rejecting it, how to deal with its narrators. We just mentioned the outline. We didn't study that at all, just the outline. Tell you, what else did we talk about last night? Anwa, the different types, genres of books of hadith. All books of hadith aren't the same. They're different types, different categories for different purposes and different usages. We mentioned that briefly, nothing more than the outline. We didn't actually get into the study of that yet. طيب. The foundations of hadith compilation. The foundations of the compilation of hadith. How they were laid down. In general, briefly, just the bulletin point, nothing more. Quick, next. Golden age of Islamic sciences. Medicine, everything. Let alone hadith. طيب. The most important places for the early Muslims to acquire hadith, the rihla. Ar-rihlatu fi talab al-hadith. In general and brief, nothing detailed. طيب, what else? The effects of historical events on the study of Islam, understanding the hadith, what was going on in the rest of the world, let alone inside of the Muslim world, of history, politics, social things. It has a direct effect on a person's understanding and on a person's practice of Islam. There's no question about that. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's message to the Meccans was accepted or rejected, was welcomed or banished based off of what? Everything that was theological, their creed, everything that pertained to what they believed in or didn't believe in? Yes or no? No, it wasn't. Certain things they didn't accept with regards to their what? Creed and philosophy. Resurrection, the angels being the daughters of Ar-Rahman. وَهُمْ يَكْفُرُونَ بِالرَّحْمَنِ, disbelieving in some of the names of Allah. Things like this. Shufa'a, our interceders, those who intercede for us, between us and Allah. We're too dirty, we're too filthy to go directly to Allah. We have to have partners. Aliha. But that wasn't everything. There were other effects, such as what? Social, political, leadership, authority. Language, social class. How can he say that the slave is equal as the master? The Qurashi is equal to the non-Qurashi. The Arab is equivalent to the non-Arab. How can he say this? Everybody understand this? فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. Allah says, let them worship what? The Lord of this house. Who did what for them? أَطْعَمَهُمْ مِنْ جُوءٍ وَآمَنَهُمْ مِنْ خَوْفٍ أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ فَعَلَ رَبُّكَ بِأَصْحَابِ الْفِيلِ. Allah protected them even though they weren't what? Muslims. The status of Quraysh, their leadership. We're going to lose, huh? وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ. You think that's an accident? Huh? مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُمْ مِنْ رِزْقٍ. They were afraid that if we obey Muhammad, we'll lose out on our money. The Quraysh has been subdued to this young boy, this madman. The other tribes won't respect us. We won't be feared. We'll lose possession of the property of the Kaaba, etc. This is a reality. Treatment of women. Treatment of orphans. Everybody clear on this? This is all pertaining to social and political what? Influence. Ibn Taymiyyah. Would it have been Ibn Taymiyyah if he lived in a peaceful, calm environment? If everyone there was practicing the Sunnah, was on the correct Aqidah, there weren't no non-Muslims invading the lands of the Muslims, would there even be Ibn Taymiyyah? Of course not. The thing that made Ibn Taymiyyah was his what? His world. The things that were surrounding him. That there was a need to become Ibn Taymiyyah. Everybody understand this? Ibn Abdul Wahhab. If it wasn't for the political, the social, the economic, the other problems, along with the deviant Aqidah, there would be no what? In his da'wah. And this is crucial to understand Islam. When reading these books, everybody understand this? The influences. The what? The influences. Khairan, inshallah. What else do we have? The reason why the author wrote the book, very important. Sababu ta'lif al-kitab. Why did the author write the book? Very important when studying the book. Because the author may not have written this book for this audience. He wrote this book for this audience and not what? That audience. Tayyib. What else? Istilahi meaning of sunnah. Mention our general outline. Not even mention the meaning, but that's what we're going to study. So we'll take a few more answers before we stop. You guys are still slow. This is sluggish. This is sluggish. Sluggish, boring. I'm falling asleep. Ta'assub. The effects of ta'assub, of fanaticism upon the Muslim, of the Muslim world in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th century. The inhirafat, people were deviating from the straight path in one way or another. There was a need to further the hadith movement, to further the hadith culture, to further the books, summarize, explain, combine, make hybrid, etc. Khairan, inshallah. Tayyib. All right, jazakumullah khairan. With that being said, let's get started with today's lesson. And I will need volunteers to read, inshallah ta'ala, from brothers and from sisters. Bi'idhnillah. Okay. It's a new laptop we have with us today. So please give me a second in getting familiar with it with regards to moving the page down. Okay, all right. So today's lesson, bi'idhnillah, actually getting into the book. There we go. For those who have the PDF, it is page 13, huh? Page 13. Page 13. Tayyib, page 13, huh? Page 13. Everyone's there on page 13, inshallah. All right. We have some English slides for you as well. A very important summary for the whole entire course. Khayr. Jazakallah khairan. View. Play. All right. Khayr, inshallah. So we have volunteer reader, inshallah. Starts off with in English. We have any volunteers? Fadl. History of the compilation of a hadith. Or even easier way of saying it, compilation of hadith. Or an even easier way of saying it, hadith compilation and its history. Fadl. Sunnah. What does the word sunnah mean? And what is this meaning? So the first thing says sunnah, not hadith, but sunnah. What does the word sunnah mean? We said that the word sunnah literally means a way, and or a laid down practice. A laid down practice. This is what the word sunnah means to an Arabian Christian, an Arabian Jew, an Arabian Zoroastrian, an Arabian atheist, an Arabian agnostic, or someone who is an Arabian, but he has learned the pure, organic tongue of the Arabs. Nothing to do with what? Islam. Nothing to do with what? Islam. You study Latin. Latin is oftentimes associated with what religion? Christianity. But it doesn't necessarily have to. Someone who speaks Latin who was a pagan or a Satanist. Everybody clear on this? A Satanist or a pagan. Everybody understand this? But he spoke what? Latin. Christianity and Latin oftentimes associated, but it doesn't mean that everything in Latin is automatically the understanding of the Christian. Hebrew, or even more accurate, especially today, Yiddish. Every language of someone who speaks Yiddish doesn't necessarily mean that they are Jewish. Everybody clear on this? Wahakada, Hindi, Buddhist, this, everybody understand this or not? Mandarin, Cantonese doesn't mean that they're a Buddhist or Taoist. Everybody understand this? Even though the first thing that you think about with this language is this religion. Everybody understand this? So the Arabic language, everything in the Arabic language does not have the Islamic meaning to it. Very important principle. It has nothing to do with our course. Anything out of the deen. Everybody understand this or not? The word ilah. What does the word ilah mean in the Arabic language? With nothing to do with what? The aqidah of Islam. What do the Arabs understand from the word ilah? We're not asking the question. We're just showing you the proper way of thinking. The proper way of what? Of thinking and taking a course. What does the actual word what? Mean according to the Muslims, right? No, not according to the Muslims. According to the what? The people of the language. The people of the what? Even if most of the people that speak that language are Muslim. But that isn't the language. The language, the word sunnah has a meaning, and it had a meaning. It has a usage, and it had a usage before there was Muhammad's message. Everybody clear on this? And that meaning is sunnah. A person smokes cigarettes. I smoke a box of cigarettes a day. The box. That is my what? It's my sunnah. That's what I do. That's how I like to do it. Clear on this? Understand this or not? I drink a 6-pack of beer every day when I wake up. That's my what? Sunnah. Waliyadhu billah. Is that Islamic? But it is a way, or is a laid down practice, the custom, the tradition. Everybody understand this or not? That's what the word linguistically means. Pertaining to the Muslim scholars. Now, not pertaining to the Muslim scholars. You keep letting me trick you. Based on the what? Linguist. A language is very important, has nothing to do with faith. Don't mix the two. Language is one thing, what? Total different thing. فهمنا هذا? We as Muslims use the term based off of its original linguistical meaning, but with much more. Clear on this or not? So the word sunnah literally means a way and or laid down practice. And there are other meanings as well, which we'll read bid'nillahi ta'ala when we get back to the Tadween book. B, as for according to the Islamic legislature, notice that we did not say according to the what? Scholars of Hadith. We said the Sharia, the Deen. Then it depends on in what field of expertise the term is being depicted. I.e. in Islam, there are different specialties, different specialities, different fields of expertise. You go to the hospital, there's the doctor who specializes in surgery, brain surgery, heart surgery. The doctor that specializes with the skin, specializes in the heart, specializes with the eyes, specializes in the brain, specializes with the bone. And then there's specialists among a field of speciality. I focus on feet. I focus on what? Feet. You have a back problem, you go see my colleague. Even though the vertebrae and the foot is all, or they're all what? Bones. Fahimna hadha? Everybody understand this or not? You have to see my what? My colleague. He specializes. He's a chiropractor, back surgeon. I specialize only in the what? Feet. So when I use a word or a term, it may or may not be the same as my colleague who focuses on the bones of the upper body, of the torso. Fahimna hadha? So the word sunnah in Islam doesn't have just one what? Meaning. Everybody understand this? And this is crucially important. And it will avoid or will cause you to avoid many takhabbutat, all types of addictions and blunders, which we'll get into if there's enough time. Tayyib, number one, it has a specific meaning according to the scholars of Hadith. When the ulama of Hadith, the muhaddithun, when they say sunnah, it may or may not mean the same thing when the ulama of fiqh, the fuqaha, say sunnah. Number two, similarly, according to the scholars of aqidah, the ulama who specialize in tawheed and iman, the aqidah, they use the word sunnah, and it may or may not be the same as the meaning of the scholars of hadith. And it's a critical error to do what? Jumble the two together. Everybody understand this? So, let's give a perfect example. We mentioned the book of Imam al-Baghawi, rahimahullah, yesterday, called Sharh al-Sunnah. Sharh al-Sunnah. It's the same meaning as Al-Tabari's book, Sharh al-Sunnah, let alone Barbahari. Correct? Adam, you're late. How are you going to be successful when you come late? He's sitting on the back row. Where should you be sitting? In the front row. Huh? Ali, I see you. Gulad, you can't, mashallah, too tall. I see you guys come late. You guys gotta come what? On time, huh? Tayyib. Moving forward. The word Sharh al-Sunnah, according to Barbahari, is the same as Baghawi. Naam? We said this, right? We did. Said this just now. They mean the same thing. Sahih? Two different things. Because Barbahari's book is about Aqidah. Baghawi's book is about Hadith. Clear on this or not? Tayyib. Number three. Also according to the jurist of Islam, the fuqaha, the Shafi'i fuqaha. Naam? The Hanafi fuqaha. Naam? The Maliki fuqaha. The Hanbali fuqaha. The Zaydi fuqaha. Naam? Whatever faqih or group or school, when they use the word sunnah, it may or may not mean the same as the scholars of aqidah or hadith. Clear on this or not? Number four, it has a special intended meaning when compared to bid'ah, etc. I.e., the term is used, sunnah, not by itself, not by its what? But it's only used when it is? No, in contrast, exactly, when it's compared to bid'ah. This is bid'ah and this is sunnah, not hadith. Everybody with me or not? Raise your hand if you had some green tea before the class. Raise your hand. One. How many other people drank green tea before the class? Try it out, huh? Inshallah. Drink some what? Green tea. Hopefully, as they say, an apple away keeps the what? Doctor away. A cup of green tea before the class, hopefully it'll tune up your head. You gotta try it out, inshallah. Tight. With that being said, we have 4 different examples here. 4 different classes of ulama. Ulama who focus on what? Hadith. Ulama who focus and study or specialize in what? Aqidah. Ulama who focus and study on what? Fiqh. And ulama who study and focus on طيب. And then we have مثلا even more, you say usuliyin, the ulama of usul al-fiqh. When they use the word sunnah, it has as a maqsood. And we say sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't the same. Clear on this? How do you know when it is or when it isn't? This is confusing. It's this and that. The only key to this, Mahdi, is what? Is through al-fiqh fi din. Understanding, learning. Emptying your cup and then inshallah filling it back up with the proper information. Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fi din. Tight, moving forward, we'll give some examples of this maybe later on. Next point. Hadith meaning. A new volunteer to read, please. Fadal, you gotta raise your voice, please.
The word hadith has 2 linguistic usages.
The word hadith, not like sunnah, has 2 linguistic usages. According to the Muslims, it has 2. How many usages? 2, right? No, wrong. We said linguistically, Muslim, Jew, Christian, atheist, anybody of a lugha al-Arabiyyah, with the condition that the lugha al-Arabiyyah is organic. Lugha al-Arabiyyah in 2018, it's the same, but at the same time it isn't the same as back then. The people's minds were different. Everybody understand this? And the same is different with regards, the same applies to English. There's an English language and there's also an English culture, literature. There's an English mind. No question about that. You can learn French, but it doesn't mean that you think like a Frenchman. Everybody understand this? I learned Somali. It doesn't mean that I think like a what? It's different. Everybody clear on this? This is crucially important. In the UK, do they not speak the same language we speak, English? But if you talk to someone who from the UK, they're British, sometimes, not all the times, but oftentimes they think a bit what? Differently. Certain words, certain terms, certain wit, certain jokes that you may not get. You're like, what's so funny? He's cracking up. He's dying on the floor, tossing and turning. So I don't get the joke. But any other British person will walk in and do the same what? He will be rolling on the floor. Everybody understand this? Canadian and American. Certain jokes of Canadians may not what? May not get. Or the American brothers may not what? May not get. Even though it's the same what? Language. But the culture and the mind is different. Even though there are many parallels and consistencies. We understand this or not? Very important that language is not supposed to be separated from what? Culture. They're supposed to go hand and hand. Language and culture are supposed to go what? Hand in hand. Everybody understand this is very important in issues of aqidah. When we start talking about at-ta'wil, we start talking about al-majaz. You start talking about al-majaz. Yani we mentioned نحن قلنا أنه يعني ستكون فوائد لمن؟ للمتفوقين. There's going to be some fawaid not for everybody. When you study Babul Majaz, okay, one of the ways of those ulama who refute this, the majaz, making the majaz in Lugha al-Arabiyyah, al-majaz fi bab al-sifat, is that هل عهد بأن اللغة تنعزل وتنفصل عن التركيب عن السياق عن الذوق هل يعقل هذا الشيء؟ رأيت أسدا يخطب. I saw a lion giving a sermon. He was an asad. What does that mean? Is that literal? Is that figurative? You say figurative. Another person says what? Literal. What's one of the ways that we can determine whether it's figurative or literal is what? Is the culture, the context, the dhawq, the whole language as a whole. Everybody understand this? I saw a lion on the minbar, meaning he was a what? Ferocious, spellbinding khatib. That's what's understood in the language. And not someone literally understanding it was an asad. a ferocious carnivore, a big cat from Africa on the minbar. That's what the word literally means. رَأَيْتُ أَسَدًا يَخْطُبُ. But do the people of the Arabic language understand that in their culture? For you to even come and say their needs is majaz. فهمت هذا؟ النقطة مهمة جدا. طيب بعدين the word hadith has two linguistic usages. Number one, A, as a noun. تفضل أخي.
As a noun, a story,
It means when it's used as a noun,
a story,
a narrative,
discourse, or legend.
a legend. Number two,
As an adjective, means new, brand new, or innovative.
you say hadith يعني قصة. You say hadith يعني ها خلاصنا القصة خلاص. نقول حديث بمعنى قصة خلاص. المعنى الثاني أو الاستعمال الثاني في اللغة نقول هذا حديث يعني هو جديد. Adjective and noun. As a noun, hadith means what? A narrative, a story. Hadith al-ghashiyah. As a wasf, a sifa. An adjective, it means what? جديد. محدثات. وشر الأمور محدثاتها. محدث. يعني مجدد. It's new. You clear on this? فهمنا هذا? As far as
As for its meaning, in the technical Islamic sense,
technical Islamic sense. المعنى الاصطلاحي في الدين. تفضل.
then it is anything is attributed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Anything, whether it is something he supposedly said, did, approved of, and allowed. How he looked and or behaved and morally conducted himself. And regardless whether it is true or false, genuine or superior.
Sorry, we have to forgive some errors from the editor. Editor's job is to make sure that it's what? As a what? Nope, not, la, we never said that. طيب, we forgot, طيب, we say what? As far as its technical sense in Islam, then it is anything that is attributed to Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad, anything that he supposedly said, whether it is a statement, قال رسول الله حب الوطن من الإيمان, love of one's land is from faith. This is called a what? Hadith. Is it authentic? Is it weak? Is it made up? That's not initially what? Relevant. That's not important. The definition of hadith, ma udifa. Anything that is what? Attributed to the Prophet ﷺ. Someone says that Muhammad said, loving one's country is a part of faith. We call that a what? Hadith. Did he actually say those words? That's not the point right now. The point is that it's technically classified as a hadith. Anything that is what? Yurwa, yudafu, yusnad. Anything that's attributed to, that's called a what? Hadith. Or an action, something that he did. Prophet Muhammad did this. Or something that he approved of. The Prophet Muhammad allowed his companions to do that. Everybody understand this? Moving forward, how he looked. The Prophet was tall, he was short, he was dark, he was light, he was fair, he had brown skin, he had straight hair, he had curly hair, he had this type of hair, this type of fingers. His physical description. The Prophet ﷺ is what? Physical description. His what? Physical description. How kind he was to animals. Naam? Metaphysical, moral. It isn't his physical character. He's tall, short, has nothing to do with his what? And the inside. Everybody understand this? For him now, we got it or not? After his physical description, we said what? How he looked, or before that, either or, give or take, qaddam or akhir, antahur. How he what? Behaved and morally conducted himself. صفة خلقية. وصف خلقي لا خلقي. نعم. Regardless بغض النظر, regardless whether this thing that is attributed to Muhammad is what? True or false. Genuine or totally made up. Fahim na? This is the technical meaning of the word what? Hadith. And the word hadith in its usage is far more restricted than the word sunnah. Sunnah is far broader. It's far what? Broader, much bigger scope. The fuqaha, they don't have different usages of the word hadith. The ulama of tafsir, ulama of seerah, they don't, 99.9% of the times they're going to be using what? Here, initially, even without some of all of the details though. This is daqiq, jiddan, finely tuned. Huh? And one may also say, oh, ila zamin nubuwah. Anything that was what? Happened, attributed to the time of the, such as a tabi'i saying, this battle was fought like this and like that. Allah sent down the verse because of this and because of that. Clearness, it's called a hadith. Moving forward, we'll make some examples perhaps, if there's enough time. New volunteer. Any volunteers to read? Fadl ya akhi. Sunnah compilation process. How?
During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Sunnah was preserved by memory, contrary to common belief, actual documentation.
First point. During the time of Muhammad ﷺ, the Sunnah was preserved in the hearts of men and women. In the hearts of men and women. This was, i.e., you would write in your notes, the primary method. The primary way. The main way. The Prophet ﷺ's statements and actions, Umar, was preserved how? Primarily by what? Umar. Primarily by what? Bil kitaba, sah? The sudur. And the one's breast, one's chest, the heart. You memorize it by heart. Primarily. And also, contrary to common belief, there was actual hadiths were actually written down. Which we'll take in the examples if there's enough time, inshallah. There were actually hadiths that were what? Were. But that wasn't the what? Main way. Moving forward. Tfadl ya akhi.
The companions began this process by following, imitating, and observing the acts of the Prophet ﷺ.
How did they start this? Observing, the last one should be first. Observing, looking at the Prophet. Paying attention what he did. And paying attention to what he didn't do. And that's why we said what? Some of the ulama, they say that when you're in a class, you should never take notes. Not all of the ulama, we said what? Some of them. They say you should never take notes. Why? Because when you take notes, what can't you do? 100%. You can pay attention, 70%, 80%, you write down, but it's not the same as you what? Everybody clear on this? So the Sahaba, that was the first step of being what? Observant to Muhammad's actions. Everybody clear on this? After they observed, they did what? Imitated. And they followed. And that's also a means of preservation. Everybody understand this? Your son learns from you, your daughter learns from you, and you don't say anything to them. They mimic you. Naam? They what? They mimic you. And then when they have children, they pass it down. And you never ever what? Anything verbally. They did not learn from you or not? Did they not pass down in teachings or not? Even though nothing was ever what? Said, let alone written down. So this is considered one of the foundations of the compilation of the Sunnah. It's how the Sahaba observed and did what? Physically did it. Everybody clear on this? Moving forward.
They also had many scrolls.
Scrolls, many scrolls. Not a few, but what? Many.
That contained several ahadith from the Prophet.
Things in which the Prophet ﷺ told them to write down. Write this down, this number, this letter, this fulan, to this king, to this one, to this chieftain. Certain things that they got from the Prophet ﷺ, and they did what? Wrote them down. And they did what with the paper? Back then, they said what? They would roll it up and do what? Put it in the kum. Put it inside, put it in the saddle. Put it in the scabbard of one's sword. Everybody understand this? The sheath of one's dagger. And they held on to these papers that they wrote down. Not complete whole books. We said scrolls, and we said what? Memorandums. Suhuf. Everybody understand this? And then when the Prophet ﷺ left them and a dispute came up, me and you fight over something. You say, this person is like this, and I say, no. And what do? What I wrote down from the Prophet ﷺ. Right, understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? Moving forward.
During the time of the successors, Tabi'un, more recording of those ahadith that were widespread and passed down by the oral tradition took place.
During the time of the Tabi'un, i.e., what did we say yesterday? When is the time of the Tabi'un? We said every generation has how many tabs? 2. One here and one what? So the time of the Tabi'un is also the time of the Sahaba. And the time of the Tabi'un is also the time of the Atba' Tabi'in. And the Tabi'un are sandwiched in the middle. For them to even be Tabi'un, they had to have met Sahaba. And for someone to be a Tabi'in, they had to have met the Tabi'in. So the majority of the people of a generation are where? In the middle. They're where? In the middle. Most of the Sahaba are gone. The new generation is coming along. They're living 20, 30, 40, 50, excuse me. And then the new generation is coming. You have grandfather, father, son. The grandfather is what now? He's old. He's waning. He's what? He's waning. He's going away. Everybody understand this? The father is in his prime. And then coming up is the son. Everybody understand this? So the father says, in my time, speaking to who? You. And you're also alive. But your time is not. Everybody clear on this? In other times, I'm talking to you like my father was talking to me. If everybody understand this? Crucially important with regards to English. What is a generation? What is a century? How to properly understand history. So when the Prophet ﷺ was gone, that's done. That's yaqeen. It's only Sahaba and Tabi'een. I.e., most of the Sahaba were what? Gone. So within a century or generation, there's time as well. The beginning of it is not like the middle, let alone the end. For him to have that, we got this. So during the time of the Tabi'een, most of the Sahaba are what? Pretty much gone. Pretty much. And then the junior Tabi'een are coming up. The main Tabi'een is their flourishing prime. What did they do? What was their process to compile and to preserve? Did they have scrolls, suhuf, in their sleeves or their scabbards or their swords or their saddles? No. They did what now? Many of those hadiths that were memorized by heart, many of those hadiths that were written down randomly were now done what? The notes were recopied. And they started writing more and more. But it wasn't a complete what? Or there weren't complete what? Books, ta'leef. There weren't actual books, major books, beginning to end, index, organization. For him to have that? Everybody clear on this or not? I take all of your notes and then I now compile all of them. Whose notes are the best? Cursive, shorthand. Who wrote everything? The first thing is what? Put it all in one place. A huge, gigantic folder or bin of everybody's notes. Then I die. My son comes along and does what? He starts putting it together in order, cleaning it up, brushing it up, mopping it up, and putting it into a much neater folder. And then his daughter, his daughter that comes along and does what? Actually puts it in what? Order. And now it's an actual kitab. Kitab Muneer. Kitab Muhammad ibn Muneer. It's actual what now? A book. For him to have that. And that's your Musnad, that's your Muwatta, that's your Sahih Bukhari, that's your Sunan Abi Dawud. For him to have that. Moving forward. Fadal ya akhi. The junior Tabi'un. Not those who met the Sahaba, but they met the Sahaba, but they only met what? They only met what? A handful of Sahaba. And the Sahaba that they met weren't the what? Kibar. He met one or two. He met Ibn Umar. He studied with Ibn Umar. The Tabi'i studied with who? Anas radiallahu anhu. He didn't meet the kibar sahaba. He only met the what? The young companions. Aisha, Jabir. فهمنا هذا? They only met one, if not what? A few. Scattered here and there. The kibar tabi'een are the people who met what? 20, 30, 50, 10, 15 sahaba, and they studied with them, and they traveled with them. They fought with them in a what? Abundance. In what? Abundance. Then you have the middle level, the tabi'een in the middle. Huh? The tabaqatul wusta. They were people who met a healthy handful of sahaba, but not a what? Not a large number. And the sahaba, they met a few of the kibar, here and there. Most of their studies and their narrations are from the middle level of the sahaba as well. And then we have the junior, sigar tabi'een. The tabi'een who only met a what? One or two. Bas. And they're called tabi'een, but they as levels. فهمنا هذا? During their era, what took place?
Did this process underwent serious change?
Serious change. Not minor change, but what? Serious change. Serious change now. A major step. Not a step, but a leap. A leap in the evolution now. Serious change. What happened? And many books were actually compiled, put together. Were those books totally refined like the 3rd century, the 4th century? No. But it was actual ta'leef. It was actual kutub. And not just scrolls, suhuf, notes. Everybody understand this or not? Moving forward.
Many important works were authored in the 2nd century by the illustrious
Illustrious followers of the successors. Many important works were actually authored in the 2nd century. Then we have the 3rd century, Qarn al-Thalith, the golden era. What took place?
the greatest and most important developments
It's this century saw the greatest and most important developments in the compilation of Hadith and Sunnah. Whereas
most significant and important works of Hadith filed in
the most significant books were written when? In the 3rd century. So what timeline are we talking about now? From year 2 to what? وهكذا. Huh? From the year 200, 201 up until 299, 301, give or take the edges. From that, everybody understand this? So any alim who lived during that time and who died during that time, he lived and died in the what era? The golden era. And then he wrote his book in that what? Golden era. Such as, off the top, Imam Bukhari or Ahmed or Ibn Majah Nasai or Abu Dawud Tirmidhi or no way, not Bayhaqi or Muslim, we said Muslim, or we said the Kutub al-Sitta. Khalas, you can't keep leaning on that crutch forever. You keep spinning the Kutub al-Sitta. Khalas. Or I want other answers. The others who lived and died in the 3rd century. Ibn Khuzaymah. Ibn Khuzaymah died when? Pause the tape. When did Ibn Khuzaymah die? 4th century. What year? What year did Ibn Khuzaymah die? Ibn Khuzaymah died what year? 311. So he technically died in the 4th century. Even though his shuyukh, most of them were from and he actually wrote his book and lived and thrived in so he is, but he isn't. Fahimta? Who else who lived and died in the 3rd century? Ali ibn al-Madini. What books did he have? Al-Ilal, Tayyib, or what books of hadith does he have? What about Ibn Abi Shaybah? Musannaf Ibn Abi Shaybah. Ibn Hibban, 354. No chance. طيب, khairan inshallah. We're still not into the deep explanation yet. Moving forward, and many other genres and what? Titles. Different types of books, and also different titles among Sunan Abi Dawud, Sunan Majah, Sunan Nasa'i. That's all one what? Genre. Let alone other genres such as Sunan, such as Musnad, such as Musannaf, such as Sahih, وهكذا. All this will be explained in more detail. This is just the outline now. Moving forward, from the golden era,
From the golden era until now, there have been many other genres of hadith
Many other genres of hadith books. Things that didn't exist in the golden era. Such as, we said yesterday briefly, Mustadrak, Ascent. Or Mushkil Athar, Ascent. Or Mu'jam, Ascent. Jami', 3rd century. Sunan Kubra, هذه Sunan, خلاص يا أخي. Or Ascent, we said Mustadrak already, but it's still good. Or Mustakhraj. Mustakhrajat. ذكرنا هذا بالأمس. You didn't review your notes enough. طيب. Last but not least. طيب. And he says, thus a non-stop evolution. It was non-stop. 5th century, 6th century, 7th century, 8th century, 9th century. It continued. And refinement. What does the word refine mean? Refined sugar. What does that mean? It's polished and smoothed and polished and polished and polished and polished and smooth. The main thing is there or not? It's there. But now we just continually what? Over and over and over and again. Everybody understand this? He says, of those original works, Sunnah, I need a new volunteer. Who wishes to read? A volunteer from the sisters, perhaps. No volunteers to read. تفضل يا أخي.
Sunnah, authority and status.
Authority and status of the Sunnah.
From the aspect of legal authority and validity, the Sunnah is
Equal.
equal with the glorious Quran. Allah, the Exalted, never commands us to obey Him except that orders us to obey His Messenger as well. Allah has warned us against opposing the command of the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no difference with regards to the authority of the Sunnah between
Matters, another error. I don't know where's up with the guys
matters of
who's worse, the Sound Art Conference or Abu Huraira Center.
between matters of belief and creed, worship and
Devotion.
devotion, moral character and behavior, and politics and government. Anyone who rejects the Sunnah has rejected the Quran, and consequently left the full.
A'udhu billah. Type. New slide says Sunnah. Still talking about Sunnah and Hadith as well. Authority and what? Status. Authority, when we say authority, we're talking about what? Issues of what now? Legal issues. Talking about what? Legal issues. What does it say on a dollar bill? I don't know what it says in a Canadian bill, but in America it says legal what? Tender. What does that mean, legal tender?
You can buy and sell with it.
That the person that you buy something or borrow, whatever, however your transaction, they're now in the court of law bound to do what? In the court of law, they're bound to what? They have to take it. He says, I don't want this money, this paper. Give me gold. Give me what? Give me silver. Give me a horse. You say, no, I've given you dollar bills. The judge is going to say what? It is legal? The dollar bill has a what to it? Authority. You have to accept it. Everybody clear on this? That's what we mean by authority. Everybody understand this? And also, not just its authority, but it's what? Status of the Sunnah. That which is not obligatory. That which doesn't pertain to fiqh, legal issues. Everybody clear on this? Do I have to do this? Is it haram? Is it Sunnah or is it fard? Everybody understand that? The Sunnah in itself is what? A lofty status that you should try to implement and practice on any aspect. How you dress, how you eat, how you sleep, whatever the case is. And it's not just a rigid issue of halal, haram. This is fard, and that's not fard. Everybody understand this? This is what Muhammad did, and it's the proper understanding of it. Let me what? Try to implement it. Everybody clear on this? Everybody understand this or not? Tayyib. From the aspect of legal authority, and when we say from the aspect, why are we mentioning this? Why are we mentioning this? When I do my definition, the moment you says from the aspect of this, what does that mean? There could be, from my point of view, kada. From what? My point of view. Once you hear you say from, that automatically means what? there are other points of views. فهمنا هذا؟ من حيث in Arabic. As soon as you hear من حيث, you automatically mean what? It's a very important point for student knowledge to be mentally sharp. The moment I read the beginning of a sentence, I already know what direction I'm going into. فهمت هذا? The moment I read the beginning of a sentence, I already know that this issue of ijma or issue of what? Khilaf. فهمنا هذا? So from the aspect of legal authority, that means that there are other aspects, other dimensions in which the sunnah is not, equal to the Quran. Simple, guys. You're making it difficult. Wallahi, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Simple, easy. Everybody understand this? From the aspect of authority, what you have to do, the Quran and the Sunnah are what? Equal. There's no difference between the two. From the aspect of reward, from the aspect of having wudu, from the aspect of it being the absolute word of Allah and meaning, then the Quran is different than the Sunnah. From the aspect of all of it being 101% conclusively authentic, the Quran is what? Different than the Sunnah. Every hadith, everything that's attributed to Muhammad is not authentic. Everything in the Quran and Kareem is what? We as Muslims believe is what? Fahimtum? Are there any scholars who say you have to have wudu when you read Sahih Bukhari? But some scholars say you have to have wudu when you read. Well, how can that? Everybody understand this? How many hasanat do you get from reading Sahih Bukhari? How many hasanat do you get from reading the Quran? Everybody understand this? So from the aspect of legislation, pay attention, because a Quran rejector, someone will try to come and trick you up. Are you telling me that Sahih Bukhari, made by a human being, is the same as the Quran, brother? Are you telling me that? So if you haven't studied properly, say, yeah, I'm saying that, yes, Sahih Bukhari is just like the Quran. And that's scientifically what? That's wrong to say that. That's what? That's wrong to say that. And from the reasons why we have certain innovations in Islam and deviant groups is because the people that were on that which was correct, they went a bit extreme. They went a bit what? Extreme. And it led the other people to do what? Counter it with another act of extremism. Fahimtum? The Muslims have abandoned the Quran. And all they talk about and speak about and study is hadith, 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 hadith. So now I'm going to come and I'm going to fabricate hadiths. I'm going to lie on Muhammad to get the Muslims to do what now? Fahimtum? The problem started where? Everybody understand this? So if you say the Sahih Bukhari is just like the Quran, as if you've disrespected the Quran. Everybody understand this? You're at work, you're at college, and the person who doesn't accept hadiths, he says a hardline question to you. Are you telling me that those books there are the same as the Quran? It's a serious question, or is it serious or not? No question. There's no doubt. It's a serious question. Do you believe that? The book that Imam Bukhari wrote, a human being, is the same as the Quran? We got the problem or not? I don't think we understand the problem. Understand? Ma fahimna al-ishkal aslan. Before we even get into the answer, we haven't properly understood the what? The problem. What is the problem here? Who can explain it in their own words? They're not trying to tell you because that's what you believe. The books of the Sunnah, without a question or with question. It is dangerous if we have to stumble over this, guys. Wallahi, if we stumble over this, this is very sad. If we have to stumble over this. Sahih al-Bukhari, man-made or not? Go lad, I want your answer. It is. So the Sunnah is man-made? Only Gulad is speaking. Only Gulad is speaking. Your name Gulad? Yes. Allahu Akbar. It is or it isn't. I know it's a popular name. I met many brothers with that name in Minnesota. Allah knows how many people I knew with that name in Minnesota. Somali brothers, Gulad. Sahih? Sharmark, Abdullahi. Sahih? Very popular Somali names. Right or wrong? Tayyib. Seattle, I met many, many brothers with that name. Tayyib. So, you, Akhi. Sahih Bukhari, man-made or not? Man-made. Sunnah to Nabi, man-made or not? It's not man-made. There aren't the words of Muhammad. Muhammad wasn't a man. So how is it not man-made? Tayyib. What's important is the book of Imam al-Bukhari, we can agree to this what? Without a question. Is it all authentic? That's not the point. The book was offered by a what? Human being. So what is the problem here at work, Umar, or at college? You meet somebody. What's the problem now? They're not telling you that. They're asking you what you believe. You tell a brother you have to follow the sunnah. You have to. And he's saying, are you telling me that Sahih Bukhari is equal to the what? We understand the problem or not? فهمنا الإشكال ولا لسه؟ ما فهمنا الإشكال. صح أسد؟ لم نفهم الإشكال. We don't understand the problem. The problem is when someone corners you, they put you in the corner with an issue. And you accept part of it, but don't understand the other aspect in which you're not supposed to accept it. So they trap you with one thing, it will lead to you being trapped in the other thing. That the Quran and the Hadith, with regards to legislation, are no. Not what we believe, we're studying, what he's trying to promote to you. Aywa. I have to follow the injunctions in the Quran. I have an option of following the injunctions in the Sunnah. And the reason behind that is the Quran and Sahih Bukhari are not equal, initially or absolutely. Initially, to us, Quran, the Kalam of Allah, compiled, organized, put in the Mus'haf al-Sharif, the Quran, is it equal to Sahih Bukhari? No, it is not. And it's unlawful to say that or to think that. We agree on this or not? Tayyib, the authentic narrations of the Prophet ﷺ, whether in Bukhari or not, when it comes to a rule, a law, something that you can or cannot do, equal to the Quran or not? So you understand, if you accept the first principle without knowing about the second one, then it's very easy for him to trick you into the second one. Everybody understand this? So from the aspect of the rewards, the Quran and the Hadith are equal. Naam? They're equal. The rewards that you get, correct? They are unequal. With regards to having tahara, purification, equal or unequal? The speech of Allah, the actual word of God, and the word of Muhammad, did Allah say that specific word? Is revelation from who? Allah. But is that the actual word of Allah? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. So from the concept of wording, it isn't or is equal. Which one? Fahimtum? Everybody understand this? So from the aspect of halal and haram, the Quran says that you have to do something, and the Sunnah says that you have to do something. They are what? Equal. And if we're having an argument and a debate, I can tell you, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said this. I know the hadith is authentic, and this is the proper understanding of it. You're now bound to take it, and you don't have to say, tell me the Quran first, then give me the hadith. Fahimtum? Everybody understand this or not? There's a huge difference between the two. Moving forward, Allah, the Exalted, never commands us to obey Him, except that He orders us to obey His Messenger as well. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Pay close to this very important point here. There isn't a verse in the Quran in which Allah told us just to obey Him. Just stop and think about that for a second. There's not one verse in the Quran that commands for one to do what? Obey Allah alone. Never. That's a serious point right there. Now, one verse in the Quran in which the verse just says, وَأَطِيعُ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this? How many times is the word obedience mentioned in the Quran? If you Googled it, or back in there they used the index and the corpus of different things like this. Now it's easy. Google the word obedience in the Quran. Use the online engine for the word obedience, obey. How many times would you find it in the Quran? A few times or an abundant amount of times? Google it right now as we speak. How many times would you find it? Obey, obedience, obey, they obey, obeyed. See what happens. See how many times you'll find it. How many times? 68 times. 68 times. Well, what word? Obedience? Now Google obey. Obey. 24 times for obey. That's almost 100 times. And not once does it say, and obey Allah only. Rather, we have two other types. The second is verses that say obey Allah and His apostle. Clear on this? And the third type, verses that say what? Obey the messenger without mentioning obeying Allah. So this is from the where? Sahih Bukhari? It's from the Quran. You're speaking to someone who's trying to reject the hadiths. Or who are you going to argue? You going to argue with the hadith on them? Or you going to deal with the what? The Quran. Something that he agrees upon. So how is it possible for the sunnah to be optional, for it to be something that's on the side, a footnote, a sideshow, nothing important, it's not been preserved, it's all fabricated, it's all made up? The political people made up the hadiths, the madhabs made up the hadiths, Ahlul Bayt against Ahlul Bayt, Muawiyah, this companion, that companion, they just made everything up. And Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in His Quran to obey Him and His Messenger, tells us in His Quran to obey the Messenger over 60 times. From the logical, rational standpoint, does that make any sense? For Allah to say, obey someone that you have no way of verifying what he actually said and did. That is why the last point, anyone who rejects the Sunnah has rejected the Quran and consequently left the fold of Islam, because you have disrespected Allah. You're basically telling Allah that you tell us to go back to something which is totally what? Just bogus. From A to Z. Everything in the Sunnah, the Hadiths are all what? Kulluha. They're all bogus. Any hadith that you can bring me, I'll tell you who fabricated the hadith. The hadith that talk about the virtue of the companions is made up by the Sunnis against the Shi'is. The hadith about Ali and his progeny and Ahlul Bayt, they were made up by the Shi'is against the Sunnis. The hadith that say obey your parents, listen to your parents, were made up by what? Made up by our parents. Hadiths that talk about obeying the ruler, they were made up against the people who were rulers. Everything that you can talk about, the virtue of the Quran, the virtue of spending in Allah's cause, was made up for the people to do what? Get money. The church and the state. Everybody understand this? Oh, yeah, man, it kind of makes sense now when you think about it like that. Yeah. Because people of other religions, what do they do with their texts? They interpret them and warp them to suit their power. How much power does the church have? How much power do they, Read the history of Western Europe and Eastern Europe as well. And you'll see the cardinals, the bishops, the saints, and the people, they're up there with the highest of the high. Of course, the statesmen. The king didn't make certain decisions unless he went back to the church. There was no war that was fought. There was no, he had to go back to the what? Church. There were rules on who he could and could not marry. Read about Louis XIII. Read about France. Read about Germany. There were rules about who he could and could not marry. Not according to the scripture, the words of Jesus, or even Paul. But with the what? So that religious authority, that religious monopoly, that provides the church with a great deal of what? Without a question. A great deal of wealth. A great deal of control of men. And unfortunately, among the Muslims, we also have the same problem. The board of the masjid, the state, the empire. They make up the fatwas. It's halal or it's haram, based off of what suits our what? Our desire, and us controlling the people. Everybody understand this? Or we promote the agenda that suits our political regime. Just like a husband, as we said, the famous example that we always use, a husband who wishes to control his wife and totally dominate her. He's going to teach her, he's going to give her the information pertaining to what? The virtue of women. Women are shaqaiq al-rijal, astawsu bin-nisa'i khayran, treat women kindly, don't do this, don't do that. No. Khayrukum li ahli wa ana khayrukum li ahli. He's going to tell her, he's going to expose her to the hadith to talk about what? الرجال قوامون على النساء إن المرأة خلقت من ضلع. That's all she's going to hear. Because those hadiths suit his, and it keeps him in what? Domination over her. And any other example, students, teachers, parents, the list goes forward. Everybody understand this? So this is what they said with regards to the hadiths. Hadiths are made up. They're totally made up to only suit the desires of the different groups and schisms and the different facets of people. We understand this problem or not? We understand this or not? Do we understand this? Everybody understand this? Type. So historically, socially, when I ask a question, is this a reality or not? Which are the two? No question. Man is going to use whatever he can to maintain what? Power. religion, science, anything. Everybody understand this? In America, before there was the civil rights movement, emancipation of slavery or slaves in the South, there were two main classes of Americans. Two main classes. There are other groups, but two main classes. We had those that were for Southern slavery and those who were against it. Whether you call them abolitionists, whether you call them Quakers, whether you call them Yankees, and then you had the traditional Protestant Christian planter class. Everybody understand this? The planter class. So obviously the abolitionists who lived in the North, or even those who lived in the South, what did they say with regards to Southern slavery? They said that slavery is what? Inhumane, immoral, wrong, oppressive. It's against religion. It's against everything. And the Southerners, they said what? The human body, the anatomy, the brain of the Negro is not like the brain of the Caucasian. They had scientific studies to prove this, to show this, that what we're doing is the only way. It's the way that God wanted it to be. Everybody understand this? To validate their what? Power, money, wealth, affluency, and the list goes forward. Everybody understand this? So then, with regards to having a debate of slavery, wasn't necessarily about right or wrong. Everybody understand this? It's about what? Money, control. If we release all our slaves, what will we have? Everybody understand this? So therefore, they validated their slavery and their treatment of races based off of what? Science, based off of religion. Everybody understand this? And there are many other examples that you can make in which the human beings, they have to validate their what? Thirst for power. Everybody understand this? Thirst for what? For power. This is a reality. I'm the student of knowledge. I'm the resident scholar. I'm the speaker. Whether you like it or not, I enjoy a certain type of what? Power over people, no doubt. So therefore, I'm going to do whatever I can in my ability to do what? To keep that power and not just maintain it, but to enhance it as well. Yes. Or more, bigger, better. Everybody understand this? So this is their argument against the hadiths. So logically or historically, the argument could be accepted, perhaps. There were hadiths that were fabricated and made up. Everybody understand this? That's something that you can't deny historically. Well, I can, however, there's one major problem. One thing you say, one person you forgot about. One thing that you forgot about, and that's what? Is that Allah Azza wa Jal, He said in the Quran what? فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ وَرَسُولٍ. طيب. If you differ on anything, Allah says, take it back to Allah and His Messenger. So me and you differ over an issue. Let's go to Allah and solve it. Can we do that or not? Can we go to Allah and solve it? Can me and him travel to Allah and solve the problem? So obviously that means something. What does that mean? The Kitab, the book of who? Allah, the Quran. The Quran says you can't wear a white thobe and you can wear a blue shirt. So I'm right and you're wrong. Clear on this? And Allah also said, what Rasul? And take it back to the messenger. So you say white is the best color. I say blue is the best color. Let's take it back to let's let the messenger arbitrate between us and see who's right and who's wrong. Where's the messenger of Allah? So that obviously means taking it back to his what? His ruling. So therefore, based off of your argument, Allah, the Lord of the heavens and the earth, told us to go back to a source which is totally bogus, worse than unreachable. Because there are thousands of hadiths in circulation, brother. But they are all what? Made up for political, social, economic, financial, racial reasons. Everybody understand this or not? Everybody understand this or not? So this is the levy here. This is the proof against them. Maybe what you're saying is right. There were Muslims who made up hadiths for power. Yes, there were. But Allah told us to do what? Go back to it. And Allah, who knows everything that's going to happen, Allah knows everything that was, everything that is, everything that will be. And Allah also Azza wa Jal, He knows what? مَا لَمْ يَكُنْ أَلَّوْ كَانَ كَيْفَ كَانَ. Fahimna? That which didn't exist and won't exist. But if it did exist, how it would? We got this or not? So Allah said, go back to the messenger. And Allah knew that there would be Shi'i, Sunni, this state, this empire, this church, this one, this one. Allah knew these things. But yet instead He told us to go back to something. So you've disrespected who? When you say that all the hadiths are fabricated. No question about that. Because you're saying that Allah told us to return back to something which is totally what? from A to Z. That's why it's kufr akbar. For him to have that, we got this or not? Everybody understand how dangerous and serious this issue is? Everybody understand this? So this is the proof in the Quran. Allah never ever says, just obey Allah. It's always something else. Rather, we've said, وَأَطِيعُ الرَّسُولِ Allah says about obeying the messenger by himself. So, one may say, Qulad, he says what? Those verses were only pertaining to the Sahaba. وَمَا أَتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. Surah Al-Hashr, right? This surah is about what battle? Not Badr, la ilaha illallah. Banu Nadir. The Arabian Jews and the Sahaba. The verse says, and whenever the messenger gives you, then do what? Take it. I.e., that means what? No, doesn't mean that. Ahsanti, faqat. That's only pertaining to the spoils of war. And that's not even true. Fay. Al-fay ghayr al-anfar. Intabihi. Hunak fay, hunak ish? Ghanima. Spoils of war is not fay. The fay is the money that's put forth before fighting. For not to be no fighting. Al-Muhim, what's important is, he says that this verse is talking about what? Following Muhammad's way, following the Sunnah, Sahih Bukhari, or spoils of war. So that's wrong, brother. Next proof from the Quran, I have to follow Hadith. Maybe the verse was sent down for that. Maybe mumkin. But why would it remain in the Quran for 1,000 years later if it was 101% only relative to his time period? That's also disrespect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does Allah tell us a story that we don't benefit from? Does Allah teach us about something unless it has a direct connection to what? انتبهوا ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد إرم ذات كملوا جابوا الصخر بالواد ذي الأوتاد الذين فأكثروا. طيب, where's Ad? Where's Ad today? Fir'aun, Thamud, kulluhum. So why does Allah tell us about them? Unless what they did is also relative to what we do. So Allah says, whatever the messenger takes you of spoils of war, or for argument's sake, why is it still in the Quran in 2018? And if he says it's not in the Quran, I have a different Quran, then there's no argument that's even needed. There's no argument that's even what? Needed. Fahimtum? Everybody understand this? You understand, Mahdi? So even if it was talking about the spoils of war, what is more deserving to be taken? A gold cup, a horse, a camel, a breastplate, or one's faith and one's deen, one's religion? Which one is more important? Without a question, wattaqullah, fear Allah, because Allah is severe in punishment if you don't take the spoils of war. That is rationally what? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make what? Whatsoever. Everybody understand this or not? So all of these different verses from the Quran prove the status of the Sunnah. And then many, many ayat. We'll mention some of them in our next session, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, with regards to things that prove the status of the, and also the different ways that the Quran establishes the status of the Sunnah. Be careful. Because there can be one verse, or there can be 5 verses pertaining to one what? One way, such as obey. But we have other styles. Allah warns us. Allah praises those who follow. Allah, everybody understand this? The different ways in which the Quran, not the Hadiths, but the Quran establish the status and authority of the khairan, inshaAllah. Hadith Science. How much time we have left before we have to stop? Right now, right? Khairan, inshaAllah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Jazakumullahu khairan.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله استقيموا سووا صفوفكم وسدوا الخلل. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله. Inshallah, the class with Sheikh Muhammad Mufti Muneer, inshallah, will continue after the Sunnah. So what I would recommend, inshallah, once you finish your adhkar, pray your Sunnah and allow time for the class to start as early as possible. Jazakumullah khair.
What's the email, Sheikh? H.
I-B-R-A-I.
Spell on Sheikh.
H-I-B. Right there.
But I mean, yeah, technically. بالامس نحن قلت للشباب الجوع والله قلت لهم اليوم كيف حال الشيخ؟ ايه اجل موجود في الفجر. ايه عموما يعني انا امشي هنا ذكرت فيك ايام يبداوا بالمدينه الجوع تكون غاليه صح؟ هاي كمان شيء زكية شوفك ها؟ جزاك الله خير. Assalamu alaikum. For anybody that would like the notes on paper, here we have some, inshallah, for the brothers or the sisters. I believe that you were emailed the PDF for the notes as well. If you put down your email yesterday. As far as the actual printed out notes, if you want a copy right now, then they're right here on the desk, inshallah. If you'd like a copy, they're, tfaddal. If there's anyone who needs a copy of the notes or wants a copy of the notes for today's session, then it's available, brothers or sisters. Please give those to the sisters. Pass them. You guys, did you guys get the emails too? I think he emailed them to you. ما تحتاج أصلاً. أمثالكم خليكم عربي يعني نحن طيب. شوف come تعال get him no come here خلاص you stay here for a second. يا شيخ عمر ممكن تقول للشباب أظن في إشكال. You just stay there. Assalamu alaikum. When I first put it on, it was like too big. Yeah, I think it's perfect now, right? Yeah. Jazakallah khairan. I have my personal copy. طيب. ما عليك. No problem. Friend? Don't. You got it or not? You got it? You sure? طيب. Don't worry. Next time, just don't even. You get it? Anything you come directly to me, friend? Inshallah. Barakallah feek. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Thank you. So please, everyone who's in attendance, please make sure you put down your email. That way you can get the necessary scanned documents. Inshallah ta'ala. The necessary scanned documents. Also, this being the first module, we're just getting started now. So there's going to be improvements and enhancements as we go along. There's going to be improvements and enhancements as we go along. So there are going to be different references, different books, different links that will be to be shared with the students. So make sure that you've registered your email, inshallah ta'ala, for anything else that's going to be shared with everybody. Tayyib? Khairan inshallah. Everyone ready to get started? Omar? Nabda? Muhandis? Tayyib. Nawart? Bismillah, alhamdulillah, sallallahu wasallam ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Tayyib. We mentioned with regards to the authority and the status of the sunnah. Moving forward, continuing our introduction and our preface, Hadith Science, what is it? It says Hadith Science is a noble discipline and one, if not the most important, of the Islamic arts. Hadith Science consists of rules and fundamental principles that are used to determine the conditions of narrations and narrators with regards to acceptance or rejection. There are many branches and subgenres of Hadith Science, such as Al-Mustalah, Hadith terminology, Ilm al-Rijal, literally knowledge of men, meaning biographical evaluation, Gharib al-Hadith, vocabulary of Hadith, etc. The purpose of this slide is meant to introduce you and to familiarize you with what is Ilm al-Hadith. What is Ilm al-Hadith? What is it? For those of you who have actually heard of the term, regardless of how you've heard of the term, a footnote that you read, Hadith is collected by Ahmed in his Musnad and declared authentic by Albani in Sahih al-Jami'. Who's Ahmed? Who's Musnad? How you declare something to be authentic? Who's Albani? What is Al-Jami', Sahih al-Jami'? Oftentimes, that's how many English readers are introduced to the science of Hadith, by reading a footnote in a book. You read in Ibn Kathir's book, which is not about Hadith. Ibn Kathir is tafsir. And in there he says, Imam Ahmed collected this Hadith in his Musnad, with a continuous chain, with a broken chain. You're reading a book, Tirmidhi, and it says gharib. This is hadith. This is a fair hadith, a gharib hadith. What does that mean? So those who've heard of Hadith Science, a general background, a general grasp of the principle, this is more continuing to introduce you and to familiarize you with what it actually is. Let alone those from among us who've never heard of Hadith Science. And those of among us who don't know is that there is an actual science with regards to Hadith and how the Sunnah was compiled, recorded, classified, graded, categorized, etc. And it isn't something that's sporadic or haphazard. It is an actual detailed science. There's something in Islam called science of Hadith. Just like it's something in Islam called the science of the Quran, ulum al-Quran. The Quran is authentic, is the word of Allah. We believe in it. It's the guidance, hudan lil muttaqeen, and that's it. It's far deeper than that. There's a long history, a rich history of principles, foundations, practices, maxims that were laid down by the Muslims many, many years ago up until this day, dealing with the Quran. Its modes of recitation, its tafsir, reasons why verses were sent down, the ahkam of the Quran, the rulings of the Quran, وهكذا. The i'jaz of the Quran, the miraculous nature of the Quran is a science. Just like fiqh, there's a science to fiqh. How do we know that alcohol is haram? It's haram to drink alcohol. What verse in the Quran says that? Where does it say in the Quran that alcohol is haram? Does it say it in the Quran? Is there a verse that says that the alcohol is haram? There's no verse that says that. وين هذه الآية؟ ها تفضل. والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه. طيب وين أنه حرام ولا يجوز شربه؟ ها فهمت كيف؟ It doesn't say that in the Quran that khamr is unlawful and prohibited. It does not say that in the Quran. There are other things that say, or other verses that talk about khamr in the Quran. No question about that. Huh? But those words are not mentioned. Drinking alcohol is what? Prohibited. It doesn't say that in the Quran. So where do we get this from? Where do we get the ruling that it's haram to drink alcohol? There's a science. هذا هو المقصود. There are principles, there are rules, which the early Muslims, up until this day, use to determine the hukum, the ruling. Everybody understand this? They use to determine a what? The ruling. What's lawful and what is unlawful. There is a science. Just like a law. In the Western country or Eastern country, there's a law. There's a lawyer, there's a judge, there's a prosecutor, there's a jury, there is a what? Science, a system. And that system, from the early days, primitive man, whatever you want to say, gathering, congregating, decided, what do we do with this person, with that person? Everybody understand this? Up until the refined, detailed system of what? Of law. Everybody understand this? Law, criminal law. From the most wealthy people, from the best professions to have is being a what? A lawyer. Obviously, the lawyer has to spend years out of his life doing what? Studying what? A science. And he has to spend years being experienced in this science, this field, for the criminal to be sent to jail for the rest of his life. For the person to walk free. For the person to face capital punishment. There's a what? A science. They determine guilty or through a set of what? And principles and everybody understand this? So many Muslims are unaware of the fact that there is a science behind hadith. When we say hadith sahih, that's equivalent to saying the judge, he drops his gavel and he says what? Guilty. How many hours and days and months, if not years, went into that one gavel being dropped until it was determined that he was guilty. Everybody understand this? How many days, weeks, hours, months, years goes into the scholar saying this hadith is what? Sahih. This hadith is mawdu'. This hadith is kada. There is a what? A science. There's a science of hadith. Everybody understand this? So those who already know about it a little bit, we want to give you a little more. And those who have no clue about it, we want to at least introduce you to the fact that there is a science. And this is not the topic of our course. The topic of our course is the compilation of hadith and its history. However, ilm al-hadith, hadith and science and this, they're going to go what? Hand in hand, directly parallel. Everybody understand this? Khairan, inshallah. So therefore, hadith science is one of, if not, for sure we know is one of, is in the top 3, top 5, no question. If not the first and the best and the most supreme, if that's even a word, the most supreme, because supreme is supposed to mean what? The top. If that's even a word, al-muhim, hadith science is, if it's not in the top 3, it's the first. If it's not the first, it's in the top 3 of the Islamic what? Sciences and arts. Everybody understand this? That pertain to religion, the field of the Quran. And in the Quran, there are other subfields. The Qur'an are not like the Mufassirin. The Mufassirin are not like the Fuqaha who specialize in ahkam, the rulings of the Quran. Everybody understand this? If you have is it permissible to have a dog in Islam? Yes or no? It's permissible to have a dog? Can I have a dog? Yes or no? I can't. For guarding purposes. What does the Quran say about a guard dog? What does the Quran say about dogs? Nothing? Hunting. هذا هو. بارك الله فيك. It's permissible to have a dog for what? Hunting. Everybody clear on this or not? What type of dog can you hunt with? What is the ruling on the saliva of the dog when it go fetches the game and pulls it back? Do you have to wash the duck again? You have to wash whatever you're hunting, the rabbit, or not? These are rulings of the what? Of the what? Of the Quran, ahkam al-Quran. We didn't get into the hadiths about hunting dogs. We're just talking about Surah Al-Ma'idah. Chapter 5, Allah talks about dogs and using them for the purpose of hunting. So there's some ulama who specialize in ahkam al-Quran, the rulings of Quran. Everybody understand this? Within one field, Quran, those who specialize in the recitation of it. He's not a mufassir. He doesn't know the tafsir, but he knows all the recitations. He spends his life dealing with the recitation of the what? Quran. He doesn't drink cold water. Everybody understand this? He's a Quran reciter. He has talent and he has skill, a beautiful voice. He doesn't miss a letter. He's a Quran reciter. But you ask him, why was this verse sent down? What does this ruling mean? وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوء. What does that mean? ما معنى he says, ما أعرف. I don't know. But I can recite it to you in this warsh, and this qira'ah, and that qira'ah. The mufassir, the scholar who specializes in tafsir, he says this verse was sent down concerning kada, al-quru' jamu qarwuhu kada, wa. Just like that. Everybody understand this? And the other fields as well. And from these fields, and from the best of them, if not the best, is the field of hadith. Everybody clear on this or not? Why is that? How is that? What's the proof of what you're saying? Perhaps we'll mention this later on. Moving forward. Hadith science consists of rules and fundamental principles, and also subsidiary principles you write down in your notes. Also, subsidiary principles, branches as well. General, specific. That are used to determine the conditions of narrations and narrators with regards to acceptance or rejection. That's it. It's just that simple. What's the fiqh of the hadith, the meaning of the hadith? That's not initially from science of hadith. Initially, ibtida'an. Everybody understand this or not? Is the hadith authentic or not? Is the narrator reliable, trustworthy or not? How do we determine this? Because what I think. You have a handsome face, so you can't be a liar. Your hadith is accepted because you're handsome. You don't have such a handsome face, so your hadith is already what? Rejected. I saw you in a dream, so your hadith is automatically. Someone can say and use this. That's not ilmul hadith. Ilmul hadith is based off of what? Usul wa qawaid, usus, dawabit, ilmiya, mutqana, meticulous rules. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear this or not? That's what ilmul hadith is based off of. What is accepted and what is what? Rejected. And not off of a taste or a view or. Everybody clear this or not? Fahimtum hadha. It's not a haphazard science or field. Everybody got this? It's based off of fundamental rules, fundamental principles, maxims, general and specific, with regards to two things. Al-qabul aw al-rad. Acceptance or rejection. There are many branches. That's the asl, but there are branches of hadith science. Subgenres. Genres within genres. Subgenres under one genre. We all know what a genre is? Naam? We all know what a what? What is a genre? What's the word genre mean? Type. What else? Category or subset. An example of a genre is what? Comedy. Okay, type. Comedy. That's a genre of what? That's a type of entertainment, for example. How many are there subgenres within comedy? Such as family, stand-up. Everybody understand this? Within one field. Everybody clear on this or not? Everybody understand this? Tayyib. Moving forward. These subgenres are many. Some of them, or one of them is called, that which is called al-mustalah, or ilmul mustalah, or mustalahul hadith, which is basically based off of the language, what's being said. Sahih, Hasan, Sahabi, Tabi'i, Mursal, Mustadrak, terminology, a wording. Huh? Everybody understand this? What is your wording? Huh? What do you mean by this word? Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? You may say a word that's linguistically has a meaning, but that's not how you're using it. Everybody understand this? Such as what? In Canada, you say something that Canadians say. Hey, Tayyip. You guys said it, not me. Huh? I didn't say. So say that was pretty good, eh? Tayyip. What does that mean? Am I asking you, was it pretty good? I'm asking you, that was pretty good, eh? I'm what? But in America, we may say what? Yeah, or like, hey, like that was like, I'm asking you, but you're saying that was pretty good, eh? Everybody understand this? So a person, he has to understand the terminology of Canada, the lugha, huh? Surgeons, physicians, they have a what? Terminology. Everybody understand this? You read it. What the heck is this big fancy Latin word? Biologists, marine biologists, huh? People that study these things. What's the class? What's the genus? What's the family of this plant, of this animal? They have a what? Terminology. Fahimtum? Another subgenre of ilm al-hadith is what's called ilm al-rijal. Ilm al-rijal, or al-ruwat, or al-jarh wa ta'dil, which linguistically means here, ilm al-rijal is knowledge of men. Ilm al-rijal, knowing men. Meaning biographical evaluation, i.e. the narrators of hadith. Who's the sahabi, kibar sahaba, sigar sahaba, huh? A tabi'i, kibar tabi'in, who's thiqah, who's da'if, who's muttaham, who's matruk. Jazakallah khairan. Everybody understand this? Imam, hujjah, terminology, ilm rijal. This narrator narrated from this person, he narrated from that one, he didn't meet, they didn't meet. Huh? This woman was a student of this one. She was a teacher of that one. The biographies of the men, of the narrators, men and women, and evaluating them. Who we can and cannot rely upon and trust. Who is accurate, who's inaccurate. Everybody understand this? The narrators of hadith. The hadith composed of how many parts? 2. Sanad and a metin. Sanad being the chain. The metin being the thing that's being said or being reported. You get news. You get some news about something that's happening in Canada. Where did you get the news from? You have to get it from someone. And in most cases, that person is oftentimes reporting from someone else. The thing that comes on the news, the people that are speaking, they're reporting from the people that are actually there. The anchor, the journalist, the reporter. That is the chain of narrators. And they're narrating what took place, what happened. As a train was derailed. An oil spill. Nah? These tons, gallons of oil, the tanker. Everybody understand this? They're reporting you something. Who are those people? This news station is totally unreliable. Totally inaccurate. This news station, this reporter is totally reliable, totally accurate. وهكذا. So making the evaluation of these narrators moving forward. That obviously cannot be explained in a couple of minutes. This is just an introduction to get your mind to be inquisitive and insightful. There are many classes and lessons and lectures and books that we have done on this topic, and many people before me as well have done it as well. Inshallah ta'ala. Moving forward. Gharib al-Hadith, vocabulary of Hadith. Words that the Prophet ﷺ said and used. Understood, not understood, common, uncommon, etc. Subgenres. Moving forward. We need to volunteer to read. Fadl Adam.
Hadith Sahih. The term Sahih literally means healthy, correct, sound. According to the science of Hadith, it is a narration that fulfills the following condition. Number one, its text must not conflict with the text of the Quran and the well-known established Sunnah. Number two, it must have a continuous chain. Number three, its narrators must possess religious piety and equity. Number four, they must possess retentive memories. Number five, there must not be any hidden defect or glitch in its chain or text.
Now we're talking about another branch of what Hadith Science is. One of the most important terms and one of the most commonly used terms is Sahih. Sahih. Or Sahih. Sahih. Sahih Muslim. Sahih Bukhari. No one says Sahih al-Bukhari, huh? Illa, huh? Aywa, just a few people. Everybody understand this? What does this word mean? Linguistically, it literally means, according to the scholars of Hadith, what? Nope, wrong. We proved this in the beginning of the class. Aywa, Jazakallah khairan. Forgive me back what I what? Gave you. That's all you're required to do. We explained this in detail. The linguistical meaning. When we say linguistical, it automatically means the Islamic meaning. Sahih? Exact opposite. The linguistical meaning is the language of the Arabs. What does this word mean in Latin? Not what it means or how it's used by Christian scholars. Everybody understand this? What does this word mean in Yiddish? Not how it's used or understood by people that are Jews, but someone who speaks the language. Everybody understand this or not? If I learn Polish, the language of Poland, does it mean I'm Jewish? Does it mean I'm Christian? I mean, I have no religion at all. But this is my mother tongue, and I actually studied the classical language of Polish. It has nothing to do with how the Polish Christians or Jews use and understand the term. Once more, you felt. We explained this too many times. We explained this what, Samir? Too many times. Linguistically, automatically means its meaning in Islam. Ahsantum. No. Why is it even important to understand Lugha al-Arabiya without Islam if we're all Muslims? It's very important. It's very important to study that. Because you have to understand what the actual concept is and how it is connected to the Islamic science. So healthy. Think about someone or something that's healthy. What do you think about it? The first thing that comes to mind is healthy. Your mother sees you, you come back from college and says you're not healthy, you don't look healthy. Everybody understand this? It's a meal. It said it's a healthy meal. What do you think about healthy meal? I mean, something that comes up in your what? In your head. The word what? Healthy. Everybody understand this? Or correct. What's the first thing you want to hear? Correct. What's the first thing that pops in your head? A check mark. No doubt. Ascent. And not red, right? Everybody understand this? The first thing you hear about is a what? Is a green check. Not a what? Not a red one, a red X. No doubt. Conditioned from TV, from school. This is the world that we live in. This is the world that we what? That we live in. Everybody understand this or not? Correct. Sound. Something is what? Sound. So this is going to have an effect on its meaning and understanding in what? In the science. Something is what? Sound. Authentic. Genuine. Healthy. Everybody understand this? It has a connection. Moving forward. According to the science of Hadith, and notice we didn't mention any other science. Fuqaha. What they consider Sahih is rejected to the scholars of Hadith. They have no say-so in this science. What they consider is Sahih. The Hadith is authentic because of my principles, my fiqh mind, and it sounds good. It doesn't clearly go against the Quran. It sounds mustahsan is maqbool. Abadan. Ahlu Makkah adra bi shi'abiha. Ahlu Makkah ish? Aywa. The scholars of Hadith, they know better of what it is and what it isn't. And it doesn't go back to anyone else's science except for their science. The word sunnah is different. That's totally what? يختلف عن هذا. Because the word sunnah has different usages. Hadith is what? It's far, far, far more narrow. Everybody understand this? The scholars of Hadith, humul mu'awwal. Al-Marji al-Wahid. They are the only source, the first and last line of defense on what is sahih, and not the other groups of scholars. انتبهوا. هذه نقطة مهمة. كررتها لفائدة مهمة جدا. Moving forward, he says, according to the science of hadith, it is the narration that fulfills the following conditions. Notice, what did we mention here differently? What do we mention differently from the traditional books that you read? What do we mention differently? We mention mukhalafa, shudud, whatever ibarah you use. Munaqada, mu'arada. That the hadith, before we get into this, technically has to be consistent with something. And tabihi. It's a big and very important faida here. Is that the authentic hadith is not to conflict with the text of the Quran. And it is not to conflict with the well-known, we said here, well-known and established sunnah, the other narrations that are well-known and that are what? Clearly established. The hadith goes against one of these two sources, and we're not talking about a ta'arud fi dhahir faqat. We're talking about this actual ta'arud, fi'lan, and which is nakara. ما يجي كيف هذا الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول هذا الكلام. The Prophet ﷺ used to do this. And he said, Kaif, how is this? And Allah says that, which is clear as day. There's no way they can meet together. That's the first sign in this hadith is what? There's sanad munqati. No. Number two, after that, we go to the other well-known qualities. And which number 5 could even be number what? Number 2. Number 5 could be what? Number 2. This is totally unconventional and unorthodox. Totally unconventional and what? 99% of the books that you find in English, Allahu Alam, the percentage even in Arabic, the first thing, Hadith Sahih is ish. Matasala sanaduhu. We didn't write it like that. Most books you find in English, the first thing they want to say is a what? Right or wrong, continuous chain. We didn't say that. So 5 could actually be number 2. However, labas. After that, it must have a continuous chain. What's meant by a continuous chain? Perhaps we'll get into that. Number 3, its narrators must possess religious piety and equity. They have to be righteous Muslims. Not perfect Muslims, but righteous. They can't be sinners and womanizers. They can't be drunkards. They can't be people that abuse things. They can't be fusaq. They have to be righteous, pious. Not perfect, but pious. Continuous chain meaning everyone in the isnad had direct contact with the next person. The teacher met, the student met the teacher. And then the student, then he became a teacher by passing it on to his student. That's a continuous chain. If we have enough time, we may explain these things in detail. We may not. Allah knows best. These things take more time. It's not the main topic of our discussion at all. Afterwards, they must pertain retentive memories. They can't be forgetful. Doesn't mean that they have to be perfect, but they have a basic understanding of holding the information with their minds or through their accurate notes. Number 5, there must not be any hidden defect or glitch in its chain or text. We don't have the time to explain this right now. This course is not on hadith terminology. This course is on what? Compilation. Mustalah. It's a different course. Many we have done, available online. This course is not for what? Mustalah. This is only ma'lumat tamhidiyya faqat. Introductory to get you to go back to what's already available, has been explained in detail with example. Tayyib? So no one say you teach us a class and you leave us hanging. You didn't explain it properly, you didn't explain it long enough. Everybody understand this? هذه معلومات إيش؟ تمهيدية فقط فحسب. ولا كلامنا منصب على إيش؟ تاريخ التدوين. Moving forward, Hadith Science, grading system. Next volunteer, please. تفضل.
There is a long and tiring process in declaring a hadith to be sound based off of the previously mentioned 4 conditions.
There's a long, there's a short. When we say long, يخرج به ماذا؟ هذا قيد يخرج به. هذا قيد يخرج به ماذا؟ Short. student of knowledge, when you're studying something, you're studying a ta'rif, you always pay attention to muhtarazat al-ta'rif. القيود يخرج بهذا القيد كذا وكذا وكذا يخرج بهذا القيد إيش؟ Everybody understand this? لو قلنا في العربي قلنا إيش؟ الحديث الصحيح ما اتصل سنده بنقل عدل الضابط عن مثله إلى منتهى من غير شذوذ ولا علة. فلما قلنا هو الحديث الذي يتصل سنده، هذا يسمى إيش؟ هذا قيد. هذا يسمى إيش؟ قيد. يخرج بهذا القيد إيش؟ هي السند الذي لم يتصل بنقل عدل يخرج به فاسق، المبتدع، المجهول إلى آخره. الضابط قيد يخرج به سيء الحفظ، الضعيف، إلى آخره. إلى منتهاه قيد يخرج به ماذا؟ روى ثقة حافظ عدل عن متهم عن ثقة. فهمتم؟ من غير شذوذ. قيد يخرج به الحديث شاذ ولا إلا. قيد يخرج به الحديث المعل الذي ظاهره إيش؟ اتصال بنقل العدول الضابطين إلى آخره. هذه يسمى القيد. قيود مهمة جدا في التعريف. هذا نقص في الطلبة. طيب, we just don't want to just give you a class, Adam. We're not here to just give you a class. We're trying to actually what? Enlighten and educate and allow you to be better students by yourselves. Inshallah, you won't have to listen to me. Everybody understand this? Seriously. Anjad. We mean this honestly. You won't have to attend this. You study things that are bigger and better. Everybody clear on this or not? Moving forward, the acceptable narrator must be the acceptable narrator who's included in the connection, the chain, he has to be a Muslim. قيد يخرج به ماذا؟ كافر. فهمتم? You got it now? He has to be what? Sane. When we say sane, what is it? Oh, what is excluded automatically? Majnoon, mentally ill. Number 3, of age. قيد يخرج به someone who's too young. Number 4, upright and steadfast in his or her. Hadith science is not just for men. Practice of the religion. As we said, it can't be someone who's a fasiq. Can't be someone who's an open sinner, an evildoer. Clear on this? Even though there are evildoers who tell the truth. And there are righteous people who may lie, waliyadhu billah, from time to time. There are evildoers who may be mentally what? Accurate. Yeah, I know what I saw. I'm not crazy. But we can't necessarily what? Take his narration. Everybody understand this? Far from weird practices or acts that are actually culturally or socially looked down upon. Things that are just really, really extremely peculiar. Because in most cases, when someone is doing something that's really peculiar, it proves what? يدل على إخلال, خلل. It's some type of something that's really messed up down the line. Now this doesn't mean, and it's not to be understood, that you can't be unique or do things differently. It doesn't mean that. We said something that's totally what? Totally crazy. Shout out, as we say in America. Totally what? If you saw somebody walking down the street or driving, like, what the heck is this? And he looks at it like a normal, simple thing. In most cases, something is what? Something is up. Everybody understand that something is what? Up. Or even if that isn't the case, the narrators of hadith are supposed to be the best of the best. And you can't necessarily be the best of the best in which you're practicing things which are majorly looked down upon culturally and socially. Obviously, there are details to this because we live in a non-Islamic society. Hishan. There's details. Someone may say, we're in a thobe is min khawarim. لا يقال هذا الكلام. لا يقال هذا. There's Islamic culture within non-Islamic culture. And tabihu. There's the culture of talabat al-ilm among people that aren't students of knowledge. It's well known in Medina how people dress. It's well known. Person sees you with a short thobe, a white hat on, he already knows min talabatil jami' islamiyya. But the normal average person that isn't in the student Islamic University of Medina, his thobe will be a different length, even if it wasn't musbil. So you can't say that having a thobe ila nisf saq hada kharaj an al-adat. انتبهوا هناك تفاصيل علمية دقيقة. لا تغلطوا. And there are many people in the east and in the west, they mix oranges and apples and they mix it up. Wearing a niqab is peculiar and totally culturally unaccepted, so don't wear niqab. Having a full beard is peculiar and weird, so don't what? Have a full beard. Wearing a thobe, it's a dress. You take it to the cleaners, they call it a what? A dress, not a shirt. It's called a what? It's a dress. So therefore, you in Canada, you shouldn't wear what? You shouldn't wear thobe, because it's totally what? La yuqal hadha shay. There's a difference. There's principles, there's details. Fahimtum? Moving forward, these things need to be explained in detail, which we're not doing right now. Next reader, please. We haven't had a volunteer from the sisters. Bismillah. Many meticulous. Tayyib. Next slide says, Hadith Science continued. Harm of weak / fabricated hadith. Their harm. Any hadith that fails to fulfill the previously mentioned conditions is considered weak and feeble. Regardless, it sounds good. It has a good sound to it. It seems like the Prophet said it. It doesn't go against the other hadiths. But if it fails to meet those conditions, then it is graded and classed as if you can be the smartest person in the class and also get a what? An F. D is passing. D is what? You passed. Khalas. You're maqbool. You got an F. You're the smartest what? You're the smartest, best student in the classroom. But you didn't come on the last day for the final exam. You've failed. Or the smartest person oftentimes is the class clown. The funniest person in the class, the goof in the class, not all the time, but oftentimes is actually the smartest person. Because humor and the ability of making others laugh is a type of intelligence by itself. So it's just such a joke, or the teacher's just such a lame loser, I'm not even taking it serious. And he's the smartest person in the class, but he doesn't what? Doesn't pass. He doesn't what? Doesn't pass. So even though he's the smartest one, on paper he has failed. So even if the hadith seems to be authentic, it sounds good, it looks good, if it doesn't fulfill those scientific principles, it is called da'if. Everybody understand this? And it's another fork in the road between the fuqaha and the muhaddithin. Samir? No doubt about that. They're lax and lenient and accepting, it sounds good. Yastahsinun yani, this is too harsh, too rigid to say. Nah, Ahl al-Hadith, if it doesn't meet their principles, then it's classified as da'if, even if the meaning is correct or good or beautiful. You understand this? Regardless, whether it is meaning, type, whether used, etc. This is yani, as an introduction, is هناك تفاصيل وهناك مراتب ودرجات لدراسة علم الحديث. There are many levels and types, forms of da'if hadith. Some are extremely weak, some are a little weak, some are in the middle, some are weak because of the chain, weak because of the metin, weak because of the metin and the chain. Many different types. Naam. In general, the hadith that is reported by a liar, in general, not all of the time, there could be a mawdu' hadith that lam yarwihi kadhab. Lam yarwihi kadhab. It's called mawdu', fabricated or spurious. It's made up. The hadith, the mawdu' hadith is the worst type of da'if hadith. That's the worst. It is unlawful to mention a mawdu' hadith unless you explain that it is fabricated. You can't just say it's a good story, it's in this book, it's in that book. You do not mention it at all on the minbar at all, in the class at all, unless you clarify to the people that it's what? Fabricated. And even then, you still necessarily shouldn't do it because of the lack of basic knowledge among most Muslims today. If I gave the khutbah, and I said, جاء في حديث ضعيف فيما يروى عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن لم يثبت, how many people would leave the masjid and say, the Imam said in the khutbah, the hadith kada kada kada. And they would totally miss out and lose on the fact that I clearly said it was what? Not authentic. Everybody understand this? Moving forward. The hadith masters of old. Huh? Of which? Yani? Sahih. The hadith masters of old had what? They have laid down many meticulous, finely detailed, precise, and even oftentimes, according to many people, they would consider them and call them what? Petty and insignificant. You're just being petty, fault finding. But to them, they were considered to be principles. Everybody understand this? Finely, what? Fine-tooth comb to get everything. Everybody understand this? And they did this because they loved the Prophet ﷺ. Everybody understand this or not? Like Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan and others, Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi, when they were asked, some of them they were asked, it is mentioned, he said he was sick on his deathbed. And they said, yeah, Sheikh Fulan, aren't you afraid that you've backbidden all the Salihin? اغتبت الصالحين وقعت في أعراضهم ألا تخاف أنت على وشك الموت فراش الموت. Don't you want to apologize to them? Don't you want to seek their pardon? That you spoke about them, you warned from them? He said, no. He said, for these people to fight against me on the day of judgment, for them to stand in front of Allah and say, he talked about me, he says, I would take that. I'll prefer that. Instead of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying to me, you heard people lying on me and you didn't defend me. You heard people making things up and you didn't take the necessary steps and efforts to prevent that. He said, I'd rather have them against me than who? Everybody understand this? This is the whole entire foundation of Ilm al-Hadith. It's the whole foundation of Tariq Tadbin Hadith. It's the whole reason why we're, inshallah, while we're here, is trying to get to Jannah. For the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we study. And this effort, and this time, and this hour, and this money is spent, and we sacrifice and suffer. These technicalities are only to lead to one thing, which is spirituality. The driving force behind technicality should be what? Spirituality. And the purpose of technicality should be to go towards spirituality. Everybody understand this? It's like a seesaw, a boomerang. It keeps going back and forth. Everybody understand this? It never ends. We learn technical things in the deen for what reason? To sound smart, right? To look smart. We have this, we have that. I studied in Medina, kada and kada, and I'm this. Ya'ni, this exotic word and term. This is a purpose for it, right? This book, Kalam al-Ulama, these aqsam, these categories, this, that. We learn these technical things just for this purpose, right? We only learn these technical things for the purpose of what? Spirituality, the heart, the soul. Because we have to learn how to do what Allah wants us to do. Everybody understand this? That's the purpose of all of this ilm and these hours of study. It's nothing more than the purpose of what? Spirituality, the spirit. And we can't lose out on this and forget this, guys. Because it's easy with this conference and this book and this principle and this narration and fulan and this sheikh and this scholar. It's very easy to lose scope or to lose focus on the ultimate goal. And that is the good pleasure of Ar-Rahman subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you sacrifice and you work and you study all of this information and you're not trying to get closer to Allah, you're an ultimate loser. Ultimate loser. Everybody understand this? And at the same time, while we say this, there can't be spirituality without technicality. Just be a good Muslim. Qalb tayyib. Just have a good heart. You don't have to learn that. Just pray, brother. Just fear Allah, brother. And some of them may even use the Quran as a proof. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. هل هذا الاستدلال صحيح ولا غير صحيح؟ صحيح أم غير صحيح؟ لماذا غير صحيح؟ لا تحتاج هذا ولا لف. هناك شيء بسيط جدا. واتقوا الله يعلمكم الله. هكذا القراءة. واتقوا الله يعلمكم الله. واتقوا وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. It's not shart. Fear Allah and He will teach you. Fear Allah for Him to teach you. Two different interpretations. It doesn't say وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ يُعَلِّمُكُ اللَّهُ. Ilm comes from taqwa. No. It's two different concepts. Fear Allah, and at the same time Allah will also teach you. So you can't just have a good heart, just, you don't need to learn. There's no point to study these things, brother. You're wasting your time, yahi. Studying this, Shafi'i, qala fulan, wa fulan, wa aqsam. It's a waste of time. Learn the simple basics. Pray, fast, make hajj, make zikr, and that's it. There's no need for none of these technicalities. That's also what? That's not only wrong, but that's the doorway to shaitan. This was the foundation of the concept of tasawwuf. Read Sheikh al-Islam Taymiyyah's discussion on Sufiya. The Sufiya of past, not like the Sufiya of today. It evolved. The original concept of tasawwuf was what? Was accepted, bila shak. Was a beautiful thing. To avoid the dunya. To stay away from the pleasures of the worldly life. To stay away from the corrupt people that were worrying about politics and fighting and killing Muslims. Avoiding all of this corruption. Focusing on Allah, on the heart, on the akhirah. There's no question about that. They asked Imam Ahmed. They said, Atara Rajul. He says, do you think, oh Abdullah, that a man, he says, Shib'an, yufakkir? وَيَرِقْ قَلْبُهُ? He says, will a man who has a full stomach, will he have a soft heart? Does he have the ability to really ponder and reflect? Imam Ahmed, who's the Imam of what? Ahl Sunnah, Qami al-Bid'ah, his name they gave him, the destroyer of innovations. He said, La urah. He says, I don't think so. They asked Imam Ahmed about that. He said, what? He said, I don't think so. That, if I took out Imam Ahmed's name, you would say that that's a statement of who? Well, no question. The guys are stuttering and acting like they don't want to answer the question. Huh? Well, if someone said, if a man's stomach is full, does he have the ability to have a soft heart and to ponder and reflect? He says, I don't think so. You say this the kalam of who? Sufi, akhi. What's this? See, it's a mistake. Look, he said it is. Sufi. And then I took off the tape and said, what? Fahimtum. So the concept of tasawwuf originally was a what? Well, no doubt, there's no question. It's haram for you to stutter and to differ on that. وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Everybody understand this? But there was spirituality without there's no ilm. Avoid the circles of knowledge, avoid hadith, stay away from all that stuff. Let it have mashghala, it busies you. And that's when the shaitan did what? Pounced on them. He what? And then the bid'ah came, and the shirk, and the kufr, and the inhilal, leaving the religion. You don't have to pray, you don't have to fast. You reach enlightenment, enter arif. Then you go to the arsh and visit Allah. Naam? Adam? You leave this earth and you do what? Samir. What do you do when you get to the arsh? What happens when you get there? What did he say? What did the man say when he got to the arsh to visit Ar-Rahman? He said, no one was there. This is what he said. He said, no one was there. Allah wasn't there. He says, oh Allah, where are you at? I've come to visit you. Allah said, I came to the earth to visit you. Everybody understand this? Allah said, I came to the earth to what? You think it's happened like this overnight, akhi? Honestly, no. It didn't start off like that, because no Muslim would ever start talking like that and thinking like that. No Muslim would ever say those words that you can't love Allah, but you have to have ishq. You have to have passion with Allah. Or a wali, a religious man is better than a prophet. Or the Prophet is still alive, and this and that, and the bid'ah, and the khurafat, and the shirkiyat, the problems of Sufiya. Do you think it started like that overnight? No, no Muslim would ever say that. It's a gradual what? Process. And the first step of this gradual process was what? No. What I just told you. There you go. Give me back what I what? Gave you. There was no what? There was no ilm, no specific ilm. Everybody understand the point? So it has to be a what? A balance. It can't just be all spiritual without actually learning the detailed what? Knowledge. And it can't just be learning detailed knowledge without actual fahimtum. Anytime we leave one of these two principles, we have what we have today. This group says this, and that group says that. Fahimtum is an ultimate balance. And the scholars of Hadith, they traveled, they suffered, they sacrificed. They did all of these things for only what? One purpose. And that purpose was what? Huh? Nothing more. Seeking Allah's good pleasure. Everybody understand this? This is crucially important now to understand. Khairan inshallah. We'll stop here for now with regards to this slide. How much time do we have left, Adam? What time is the session over? At 7? 7? طيب khairan inshallah. All right, with that being said. Huh? 7:30. طيب, bismillah. Excellent. Khairan inshallah. All right. Before we go further, where are the questions at? Huh? Underneath? All right, so before everyone leaves, if you can, inshallah, make sure you take the first module, the question, the cheat sheet. It's not actually a cheat sheet because the answers aren't here, but it's a study guide. A study guide for you to properly understand and evaluate yourself before the actual evaluation, the test, with regards to the course. Everybody understand this? Make sure you take this before you leave. There are 20 questions here. Don't leave without this, huh? And also get the PDF emailed to you as well. All right, let's move forward. Can we have a volunteer to read the Arabic? تفضل Sheikh Umar. تمهيد. قال المؤلف رحمه الله أن أشرع أبوابي وفصولي. هذا كله مضاف. دبل مضاف. نعم. أن أمهد متفرق في ديوان الصحف معرب طيب, says here, now we're going back to the book. All right, guys, we're on the book now. We're going to the original book. Sheikh Zahrani, rahimahullah. We finished our English slides for today and for this module. Now we're going back to the other sources like a hybrid curriculum. The author says, before I get into the actual book, we read the introduction in detail yesterday. He now gives you a brief definition of the title of the book, or the title of the topic, or the course. And that is Tadween al-Sunnah or Tarikhu Tadween al-Hadith. He says, فَالتَّدْوِينُ فِي اللُّغَةِ. Everyone stay with me, please. Those who read Arabic, who don't even read Arabic, you can listen. You can also help you learn it better. He says the word Tadween in the Arabic language, according to the scholars of Hadith, means what? Huh? لا أستغفر الله. كم مرة شرحنا هذا الشيء. How many times did we explain this? He says فالتدوين في إيش؟ في اللغة. في الإيش? In the Arabic language, that means, according to what scholars in Islam? النحاة or لغويين. Not the fuqaha, not the muhaddithin, not the scholars of Aqidah. فهمتم? According to the language. How many times you have to explain this, guys? How many times you have to explain this principle before you get it? Everybody clear or not? فالتدوين في اللغة تقييد المتفرق وجمع المتشتت في ديوان. وطبعا these فوائد, or some of these فوائد, كما قد وعدنا, as we've promised, are for who? Ahsant. Not for everybody. The course is a mixture. Certain people on basic level. Certain people are in the middle, and there are others in attendance, let alone those who are watching online, who's going to study and read later on, who are what? Advanced. And it's haram and unfair for us to totally ignore and neglect them. Okay, so if you're a little bit lost or this is too difficult, it's okay. If you go to a lecture and you understand 60%, wallahi, that's a major benefit. If you can get 70%, that's 7 out of 10 shots you made. 7 out of 10 passes you completed. You're considered what? Accurate or inaccurate quarterback? Bila shak. There's no doubt about that. You're accurate. Everybody understand this? You get 9 out of 10, sharpshooter. Everybody understand this? Everybody understand this? So it's not and this goes to ego as well. It's not a condition that you have to understand every single thing in the class. Who said that? Men qala hada. Who said that? That you have to go to a class and understand every single thing, unless you automatically feel what? Entitled. And that's the problem with many of us. You don't have to understand every single thing in the class. Wallah, if you got one faida, it wouldn't be a waste. Let alone 2, let alone 10, let alone half. Everybody understand this? Let alone 60%, 70% of the class. So we have mutafawiqeen, we have people that are advanced, then we have to give them what? We have to feed them as well. Everybody understand this? But everyone will eat. No one will starve. But it doesn't mean that you'll be able to enjoy every single thing on the entree. فهمتم? Everybody understand this or not? طيب فالتدوين في اللغة تقييد المتفرق وجمع المتشتت في ديوان ومنه جمع الصحف في كتاب وهو فارسي معرب يعني هذه الكلمة ليست كلمة عربية أصلية كلمة فارسية وإنما عربت. It was Arabicized. Many words were not a part of the original Arabic language, but they were Arabicized. طيب وفي الاصطلاح يستعمل التدوين بمعنى تصنيف وتأليف. Tadween means, according to the technicalities, authoring, writing, compiling, ماشي. طيب لا يهمنا كثيرا. أما السنة في اللغة فهي السيرة والطريقة حسنة كانت أو قبيحة ومنهم قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم من سن في الإسلام سنة حسنة فله أجرها وأجر من عمل بها من بعده من غير أن ينقص من أجورهم شيئا ومن سن في الإسلام سنة سيئة كان عليه وزرها وزر من عمل بها من بعده من غير أن ينقص من أوزارهم شيئا ومنه قول خالد بن زهير الهذلي فلا تجزعن عن سنة أنت سرتها فأول راض سنة من يسيرها. As far as the word sunnah in Arabic language, then it means a seerah. It's a synonym of the word what? Seerah, a way, a method, a plan, a style, a mode, a tradition. Whether it's good or bad. It can be a horrible sunnah, but linguistically it's called a sunnah. Everybody clear on this? An example of this is the Prophet ﷺ's statement. Listen how deep this is. The author is explaining the linguistical meaning through a religious usage. The linguistical meaning through a religious usage. Everybody understand this? The Prophet ﷺ says, Man sanna fil islami sunnatan hasanatan. Anyone who makes a good sunnah in Islam, فَلَهُ أَجْرُهَا وَأَجْرُ مَنْ عَمِلَ بِهَا. He will receive its reward and the reward of all of those who follow him without diminishing any of their rewards. وَمَنْ سَنَّ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ سُنَّةً سَيِّئَةً. And he who makes a bad sunnah in Islam shall receive its sin and the sin of those who followed him without diminishing any of their sins. This goes to show you the importance of dawah in Islam and also the danger of dawah in Islam. It's dangerous. You say one mistake, you get 1 million viewers. You make one inaccuracy, you quote one fabricated hadith, you make up something, you don't even realize it. And 1 million people heard you say it and they start practicing it and passing it on. It's dangerous. Do you have the proper understanding of this hadith, ya akhi? فعلا لو سئلت أنت هل فهمت الحديث? Do you understand the tatbiq of this hadith before you pass it on to others? And 2 million, 5 million people watch you. And you say this is the practice of the hadith and it's totally what, Samir? Totally wrong. The khata yarji ila men. Who gets the sin now? But somebody may say, I didn't do it intentionally, so Allah won't punish me. I won't get the sin. No, you do get the sin. Because you have no business talking about hadith if you haven't properly studied hadith. And anything else. Everybody understand this? You have no business dealing with this type of information. You haven't studied properly. Passing on information, mashi. تبلغ الناس بأسلوب ماشي. Teaching the people, conveying it, no problem with that. But you start interpreting and explaining and passing it on and saying this is the proper way, and you're not sure It's very dangerous. Just think about 1 million people following you in this era. How many sins is that, Adam? How many? That's only 1 million viewers. How many people did they tell about it and pass it on to? Everybody understand this? So dawah is so beautiful in Islam. And at the same time, it's also what? They just got to be careful. For him, Taqi, with regards to not rushing, finish your studies first. Get something under your belt first before you start talking about this and that. Everybody clear on this or not? So the Prophet, he says, he who makes a sunnah in Islam good will receive the reward, bad, etc. What is the highlighting point from the hadith? ما الشاهد من الحديث? Yeah. Aywa, what's meaning here in this hadith? A prophetic practice, a practice, something that's neglected, forgotten about, abandoned. Something that's already permissible in the deen, and then you make it into a practice. Like here in the masjid. What did Sheikh Hassan say? Every Sunday morning we have what? Community breakfast. Every Sunday morning we have a what? Community breakfast. What's the ruling on Muslims eating together? Bid'ah or not? No question. It's permissible. Congregating, eating, labas. There's nothing wrong with eating together. Everybody understand this is a good thing. So now I'm going to practice that every Sunday we have a what? Community breakfast. We see the shabab, we see the elders, we know what's going on. And he says anyone who comes to Abu Huraira Center has to take it back to his country and also what? Implement it. We implemented it in New York City. Said Fajr, Faida, and food. 3 F's. Triple F's, huh? In Queens. Fajr, then is the what? Faida, and then is the what? Food. You can't lose. Everybody understand this? So, hypothetically speaking, the brothers and sisters of Abu Huraira Masjid, Sheikh Hassan, what did he do? I did what? I took his sunnah. Everybody clear on this? I took his what? His tariqah, his way. And the hadith does not mean to make a bid'ah. Sunnah hasana yani bid'ah hasana. La yuqal hadha shay. Abadan. There's no bid'ah hasana. What's meant by sunnah hasana is something that's originally from the deen, but the people have forgotten about it. The people stopped practicing it. The people became preoccupied. Or the people never even thought about it like that. Everybody understand this? The people never even what? Thought about it like that. Everybody clear on this or not? So that's what the word sunnah linguistically means. He then quotes from the poet who says, فلا تجزع عنا من سنة أنت سرتها فأول راض سنة ميسرة. طيب ما نترجم هذا. ومن معانيها في اللغة أيضا حسن الرعاية والقيام على الشيء وذلك من قول العرب سن الرجل إبله إذا أحسن الرعاية والقيام عليها. Another linguistical meaning of the word sunnah that we didn't mention in the module in English is to look after something, to take care of something. طيب, we're not going to translate that either. هذا للمتفوقين فقط. وفي الاصطلاح تطلق السنة ويراد بها عدة اصطلاحات. According to the terminology, istilah, the sunnah has several different what? Usages and meanings. We're now talking about what now in Hishan? The deen, the terminology, the technicalities of Muslims. Number 1, we need a new reader, please. Faddal. وإذا أطلقت طيب, Ibn Manzur, Sahib Lisan al-Arab, he explains the term sunnah. And he's giving a definition of the term sunnah. He says, وَقَدْ تَكَرَّرَ فِي الْحَدِيثِ. There are many hadiths that mention the word what? Sunnah. وَمَا تَصَرَّفَ مِنْهَا قَوْمٌ يَسْتَنُّونَ بِغَيْرِ سُنَّتِي. ما تصرف منها سنة سنوا ما تصرف منها. والأصل فيه الطريقة والسيرة. الأصل في إيش؟ اكتبوا في اللغة. والأصل في إيش؟ في هذا المقصود. قال وإذا أطلقت في الشرع, whenever it's used in the deen, then it means what? فإنما يراد بها ما أمر به النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ونهى عنه وندب إليه قولا وفعلا ممن لم. He says anything the Prophet ﷺ commanded, ordered, forbade, encouraged, statement or action that's not found in the Quran. General broad usage of the term sunnah in the Islamic sense. The way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Mandatory, have to, you don't have to, optional, أي شيء. That's not in the Quran. Number 2, وقال الإمام الشاطبي ويطلق إذا عمل وفق ماشي. ثم قال أيضا وجد ذلك لسنة ثبتت تنقل مجتمعا طيب. Shatibi's kalam here, similar things we've mentioned in the English as well. Sunnah could be used what the Sahaba were upon as a whole. The Aqidah, the proper practice, such as a book, for example, Sharhu as-Sunnah. And there are things in that book that do not pertain to what? Ahsanti. There are things in that book that don't pertain to Masail Aqadiyah. Everybody understand this? Aqidah is based off of what? Exactly. What's been and what we have been informed of in the Kitab and the Sunnah. Everybody understand this? Certain things, whether it's Barbahari or others they've mentioned in those books that are not issues of Aqidah. That's why you find in Aqidah books, وَنَرَى الْمَسْخَ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ. It says, and we believe that it's correct to do what? Wipe over the leather socks. Wiping over the leather socks. Masala aqadiyya wala la? No. Why is it mentioned in the book of Aqidah? Because it's what the Sahaba were upon. And these groups, they started saying, don't wipe over the leather socks. Are you clear on this or not? They say, we make dua for the Muslim ruler. Make dua for the hakim. Masala aqadiyya wala la? It's not Aqidah. That's a practice that the people of Bid'ah were going against, talking about the ruler in public, and the people in Hadith says we do the what? Opposite, and make dua for him. May Allah guide him and correct him. For him tum. Everybody understand this? So the usage of the sunnah in contrast to the word bid'ah. Usage of the sunnah with regards to the practice of the Sahaba. Everybody understand this? طيب. وبعد أن استقرت وقعدت يعني تلكم الاستعمالات قديمة. It's old, ancient. Then after the sciences became formulated and they evolved, then it became well known these usages. The sunnah and the bid'ah, that's talking about in the times of the Salaf al-Salih, the early generations. Everybody understand this? The general practice of Islam is what? The Sunnah, the Quran, the understanding of the Quran, the practice of the Quran. All of that is from the what? مِمَّا جَاءَ بِهِ Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muhammad brought all of that, his way, Islam as a whole. Fahimtum? But that's not talking about the technical sciences after there was evolution. And there was a science of fiqh. Because back then, most of the people, they studied things as a whole. There was no nahu and sarf. There was what? Lugha al-Arabiya. But after time, then they started what? Separated. The mufassir was the qari, was the one who knew about the Quran, all in one. Then later on, they did what? Tafsir, asbab nuzul, al-qira'at, ahkam al-Quran, ulum al-Quran. هذا مقصود كلام المؤلف. بعد أن استقرت الاصطلاحات المصطلحات وقعدت العلوم الإسلامية. فهمتم؟ طيب تفضل. أولا أثر that which the ulama of hadith mentioned, as we explained in English. We explained this in English already. What the ulama of hadith, what they mean when they use the word sunnah. And that is everything that is narrated. He didn't say sahih. Kullu ma uthira. That which is reported from the Prophet ﷺ, statement, action, approval, or description. شرحنا هذا. بعدين ما يذكره علماء أصول الفقه. That which the Prophet ﷺ said, statement, action, or approval, which can be used for a proof, dalil shar'i, i.e., the Prophet ﷺ may say something or he may do something which is not used as a legislative proof. This is according to the scholars of who? No. We're done with the scholars of Hadith. That's finished. It's done. Not fiqh. Usul al-fiqh. The scholars of usul al-fiqh. Legal theory. Fuqaha shay wa usuliyun. فهمتم? So the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he wore a turban. هذا فعل ولا لا؟ هل يصلح أن يكون دليلا شرعي؟ إلا يصلح على إباحة لبس الإمامة، لكن لا يصلح أن يكون دليلا على استحباب لبسها فضلا عن وجوب لبسها. فهمتم الفرق؟ في فرق، انتبهوا. I understand this. بعدين ما يذكره الفقهاء في كتبهم ملامة وعتاب ولا عقاب أو ما أمر به. طيب, the fuqaha, when they use the term sunnah, what do they mean? That which you should do, but it's not necessarily haram not to do. The scholars of hadith, who can give me their usage of the word sunnah? Fadl, yes. You missed out already, Adam. Nah. Anything that is attributed to the Prophet ﷺ. Under the word anything is included statement, action, approval, etc. Everybody understand this? Whether it's sahih or not. That's hadith, that's sunnah, ruwiyah, narrated. And the scholars of fiqh, the fuqaha, the madhabs, the schools of thought, when they say this act is a sunnah, what do they mean? A recommended act, preferable. Something that you should do, but it isn't haram if you don't do it. Alright, so let's see if we understood this. The beard, sunnah or not? Ahsant. The first thing you do is what? According to who? What do you mean? According to the scholars of hadith, is the beard sunnah? Allahu musta'an. Lam nafham shay'an. According to the scholars of hadith, a man wearing a beard is sunnah or not? I said, bila shak, because it's something that the Prophet ﷺ what? No, before he did is the what? Ahsant, a'ful liha, let the beards grow. And it's also something that he did. We used to know qira'at Nabi sallallahu bitirabi lihyati, his beard would shake in a silent prayer. The Nabi's fil, his taqreer, he allowed the Sahaba to have what? Beards. Abu Bakr's father, when he accepted Islam, the day of Fath, he said, غَيِّرُوا هَذَا الشَّيْبِ. He says, dye his hair. It's white, dye his hair. وَجَنِّبُوهُ السَّوَادِ. Don't dye it with black dye. He acknowledged Abu Bakr's father having a, so the beard, according to the ulama of hadith, is a sunnah or not? Bila shak. According to the scholars of fiqh, sunnah or not? No. Abadan. It's fard. The early fuqaha, the pure organic fiqh. As far as the fuqaha today, or some people say today, or in the 10th or the 11th or the 8th century, that is only makruh, that wasn't the fuqaha of the past. There's no difference of opinion. كما ذكر الحافظ ابن حزم رحمه الله في مراتب الإجماع. وكما قال الشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية إن ابن حزم من أعلم الناس بالإجماع والخلاف. خذوا الفائدة. قال ابن حزم من أدرى الناس بالإجماع. Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri. So if he says this ijma', what does that mean, Samir? فَعَلَيْكَ بِهِ لأنه لا يبالي أن إيش يخالف جماهير الجماهير. عرفت كيف؟ Ibn Hazm narrated that there's ijma' على تحريم حلق اللحية. It's haram, according to all of the scholars, to shave the beard. So a beard, according to the scholars of fiqh, sunnah or not? Is it sunnah or not? I never asked you about wajib, ya akhi. I never said anything about wajib. Laysat sunnatan. Laysat min sunnah. But to the scholars of hadith, it is from the sunnah. Because it's something that has been reported from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You got it now? Everybody understand now how it works? Everybody understand this? This is a prime example of a mistake that you can avoid by having a basic knowledge of these things. Everybody understand this? So the people that they say it's just the sunnah to have a beard, that's wrong, that's an error. Tight, moving forward. And there are many other examples as well. طيب نتعدى هذا إلى أن قال. Where's the page down on this instead of just scrolling like this? Is there a page down? طيب. طيب شكرا anyway sorry. الباب الأول ويا النقاري تفضل. ذكره قسمي منزل بدأ. طيب جزاك الله خيرا أحسنت. The author says here Al-Bab al-Awwal. This is the first actual what? Chapter, which we generally laid out. Now we're going to go into detail. First chapter is what? Concerning Makanatu Sunnah wa Inayatu Salafi biha. The status of the Sunnah and how the early Muslims paid a great deal of attention to it. It wasn't something that was, no, they was اعتنوا بها. They looked after it. It was muhim jiddan. طيب, so that's the chapter. Everybody got this? We're in chapter 1. Al-Fasl al-Awwal, the first section. And we also explained this and laid this down in simple English as well, in the module. We talked about the authority of the Sunnah. Naam. طيب. Said that the curriculum is a what, Asad? We said it's a what? Said that the curriculum is what? We said hybrid. قلنا هذا. We clearly said that. We said that. That the curriculum is a what? A mixture. The English module and the... We mentioned that. Naam. طيب. First chapter is Babu. He says ما جاء في التسوية بين حكم الله أو حكم كتاب الله وحكم سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. First section is a taswiyah, equality, equal, same between the ruling of the Book of Allah and the ruling of the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. So as we explained and debated before, is the Quran and Hadith, are they equal? Yes or no? And also they aren't equal. Talking about authority, yani hujjiyah, legal authority, they are equal, as we explained. The author, he says, the meaning that we previously gave, not the meaning of the fuqaha, recommended, talking about anything that's from the Prophet ﷺ, is one of the types of divine revelation. Hiya ahadu qismay al-wahi al-ilahi. The Prophet ﷺ received how many types of revelation? 2. He received how many types? 2. 2 types of what? Revelation that Allah gave him. 2 types. Naam. The first was the Quran al-Kareem, which is what? Speech of Allah. Harfan wa lafdan. طيب. Do we even have to say that? When do we have to say that? Ahsant, when there's a need to say that. The kalam of Allah. You don't have to say غَيْرُ مَخْلُوق. And is it created? The wording, the meaning, those things are mentioned when there's the people who say, everybody understand this? Because first of all, that's unnecessary. Initially, it's not mentioned in the Quran. Everybody understand this? It's not initially necessary or lazim, and it can also be confusing. He says, not created. So, whoa, wait a second, can the Quran be created? You understand this? But the people who are going around and saying that the Quran is makhluk, is not the kalam of Allah, then it's a total different story. Then you Huh? What? Should or have to what? Say that. No question about that. غَيْرُ مَخْلُوق. It's not created. Naam. It says, munazzal, sent down. Minhu bada'a wa ilayhi ya'ud. From Allah it began, and to him it will. Ma ma'ana hadha? Ilayhi ya'ud. It will return to Allah. Or the Quran will return to Allah. كيف هذا? That the Quran will be removed from men towards the end of time. طيب. Author says, وقد جاءت فضل يا أخي ارفع صوتك لو سمحت. مسرحة. He says, and there are many verses, Sunnah, and consensus of the Salaf, no difference of opinion, musarriha, clear and frank, of what we previously mentioned, that the ruling of the Messenger of Allah's Hadith is equal to the ruling of the Quran, the Book of Allah. طيب. فمن القرآن الذكرى. طيب. جزاك الله خيرا. Inshallah, there will be assignments in this course as well that will be given out via the emails. And I'm telling you right now, one of those assignments will be, if you want to write it down, if you want to memorize it, however you like, one of those assignments will be an essay on the Quranic styles of the status of the Sunnah. The styles of the Quran, Asalib al-Quran. Meaning, an example of this, you would say, certain times the Quran tells us to obey Muhammad. Certain times the Quran says he doesn't speak from his desires. Certain time the Quran tells us that it's a means of guidance. Certain verses the Quran says it's a means of Jannah. وهكذا. And you mention the verse afterwards. Everybody understand this? So you say in your essay, from my research, I've come across 10 Quranic styles of establishing the status of the Sunnah. The first style is stating that Muhammad's way is a means of Allah's good pleasure. And then you quote verse 6, ayah such and such. If you want to quote, Ibn Kathir said in English, everybody understand this in Arabic? Everybody understand this? Al-Uslub al-Thani, the second Quranic style. Allah says, Allah warns us from disobeying Muhammad. فَلْيَحْذَرِ الَّذِينَ يُخَالِفُونَ عَنْ أَمْرِهِ أَن تُصِيبَهُمْ نِعْمَةٌ مِنَّا فِتْنَةٌ. Everybody understands? فَلْيَحْذَرْ. هذا أسلوب قرآني. That's a Quranic style which proves the what? مكانة السنة والتسوية بين حكم كتاب الله وحكم سنة رسول الله. فهمنا هذا? And then you quote the ayah. That's going to be a report to do. Everybody understand this? The Quranic styles of speaking about the status and the legal authority of the Sunnah. Everybody understand this? طيب, moving forward. So the author here, he mentions how many ayats? وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ, which is from Surah Najm. Then Allah says from Surah وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ, from Surah An-Nahl, which is number 16. Then Allah says وَمَا أَتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ, from Surah Hashr. Then Allah says قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ, Al-Imran, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ, An-Nisa. Everybody write this down. Number 1, Surah Najm, verse 3 to verse 4. Number 2, Surah An-Nahl, verse 44. Surah Al-Hashr, verse 7. Al-Imran, 31. An-Nisa, 65. You got to be able to take notes fast. Everybody understand this? And if not, go back to the recording. طيب, inshallah. Raise your hand if you have your own personal recording of the courses. Only one sister? Two? A brother? So what if Abu Huraira cancels their YouTube account? Or what if YouTube crashes? What if the website crashes? Tayyib, from a student of knowledge, is what should you do? Number one, pay attention. That's first and foremost. That's your first line of what? Defense. Number two, you should take notes from time to time. There are different schools of sitting in class. We mentioned this. Some say take notes of everything. Some take notes of the most important things. And some say don't take notes at all. But let's say, for example, the first is the what? The recorder on the desk. I want to get every single word. Then I'm also going to write down my own notes. And then I'm going to do what? No, first is pay attention. Then take notes, and thirdly is recording. So only one sister's recording the class. That's pretty pathetic and sad. That's pretty pathetic. Everybody understand that's pretty what? Pretty pathetic. We have teachers in the Scholars of Hadith that will prevent us from recording it with phones and devices. They will prevent it. They would get upset. They would leave if they saw a phone on the table because they wanted the students to be what? And strong. And there were other teachers that had no problem to say, Tfaddal, bring the recorder. Everybody understand this? 1 second, please. And then there were some teachers, I'm not saying me, I'm not saying it was or it wasn't, but I'm not saying me, who said, don't take notes. And some of the students, they did what? They not the recorder, they would do what? They would sneak the recorder in. Because it was so much, it was too difficult. Or it was such beautiful benefits that he was giving out. And they wanted to have what? Everything. Everybody understand this? Some teachers, they would sneak the recording in. They wouldn't put it on the internet and for their own personal benefit. What did Abu Dawood do with his son? What did he do with his son in the halaqah? In Basra, he brought his son and he did what? He put a fake beard on his son's face. Everybody understand this? You see in a movie or a cartoon, somebody with a beard and a mustache put a fake beard on his son's face because his son was too small to be in the majlis. And certain ulama, they wouldn't allow small young teenagers to be in a circle. Everybody understand this? What's the point we're trying to get to? You're saying sneaking and recording, astaghfirullah, haram, the mashayikh, la. The maqsood is what? Hirs. You gotta be diligent. You gotta be what? Diligent. And he was so diligent that it was impossible for his son to miss out on this opportunity. Fahimtum la. Everybody understand this? Another, I won't mention this sheikh's name. He's a modern day sheikh known to all of you. He was working on a book and he needed a manuscript for a book. So he said he went to Germany. And it's well known, Germany, France, these different places, they have many precious manuscripts, which they took from the Crusader days, the colonist days, they took back to the lands of the non-Muslims. He said that this was the only place where this manuscript was available. And he said at the time you couldn't make a copy of it. The sheikh said, Wallahi, he said, I never thought about stealing a day in my life except for that one day. Everybody understand this? He said, I never ever thought about stealing anything, but on that day, I what? Why? Because he wanted to be a thief? Because he wanted to disobey law? Because of what? Everybody understand the point we're trying to get to? So some of the students, they would record even if the sheikh what? Didn't know. Because they thought or they saw in this issue, malish, there's no obedience in this. What you're giving out has to be what? We got to take this down, sheikh, malish, even if you don't like it. Everybody understand the point? And most of us, or many of you, Allah, I know for sure, it's many brothers, hopefully this is not like this. They're saying, astaghfirullah, look what he's talking about. Look, he's talking about the mashaykh stealing things. He's talking about stealing and recording. This is the average person is going to say. Everybody understand this? And he's going to miss the whole entire what? The point. Everybody clear this or not? Of being greedy and hungry for what? For ilm. And making the necessary what? From time to time. For him to matter? Tayyib, khairan inshallah. Before we go further, are there any other, do we have questions or not? If we have questions, we'll leave time, and if not, then we'll continue. Do we have questions? Are there any questions? Okay, we have 2 questions so far. All right, so we're going to 3. Once more, if there are any questions, please raise your hands now. There will be no questions after the salah. So 3 questions. Tayyib, that means we'll stop at 7:25. Khairan inshallah. Moving forward. The author, he says, وَهُنَاكَ آيَاتٌ كَثِيرَةٌ فِي الْحَثِّ عَلَى اتِّبَاعِ السُّنَّةِ وَوُجُوبِ لُزُومِهَا وَتَحْرِيمِ مُخَالَفَتِهَا وَلَا يَتَّسِعُ الْمَقَامُ لِسَرْدِهَا كُلِّهَا هُنَا. He says, and there are many verses in Allah's book, that encourage and incite us to follow the sunnah. and the obligation of sticking to it, and the impermissibility of going against it, in which there isn't enough time to mention them now. Where are you going to come across, or how are you going to come across these other verses? Through what? Your own research. Everybody understand this? Your own what? Which is extremely easy now with Google, with search engines. Type in a word. Type in a... سهل جدا. Back in the day, when there was no Google, you had to read it and research it yourself. Everybody understand this? So there are many verses in the Quran which all talk about the sunnah, and they give the sunnah its what? Status in one way. Now, one style. هذا هو أحسنتم. In what? Different styles. Everybody clear on this? Which all at the end of the day prove one thing, the status of the sunnah. Everybody clear on this? طيب. Continue, أخي. ومن السنة أنه قال رسول الله أحدكم متكئا أريكته على الأرائك مما أمرت به ما وجدنا في كتاب الله اتبعناه. طيب. Jazakallah khairan. The first, now the author he's done for now talking about the Quranic verses that prove the status of the Sunnah and the legal authority of the Sunnah, and how the ruling of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ is equal to the ruling of, everybody clear this? That's done with regards to the Quran. Now he's moving on to the next phase, or the actual hadiths that prove the authority of the and the status of the, everybody understand this? Because you may talk to someone who isn't a hadith projector, but he just doesn't know that it's mandatory. He says, I don't have to follow the hadiths. It's a good thing, but not what? The first narration is reported by Abu Rafi', the Mawla, the manumitted slave of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, who said, لا ألفين أحدكم متكئا على أريكته. Listen carefully to this hadith, because there's a lot of balagha and i'jaz in this hadith. He says, I shouldn't find any of you, or any one of you, muttaki'an ala arikatihi, sitting back and reclined on his sofa, on his cushion, on his couch, on his bed. I shouldn't find any one of you sitting back and relaxing. Everybody understand this? He says, يَأْتِيهِ أَمْرٌ مِمَّا أَمَرْتُ بِهِ. He says what? To whom which one of my commands reaches, or one of my prohibition reaches. And he says, لا أدري. He says, I don't know about that. ما وجدنا في كتاب الله تبعناه. Whatever we found, or whatever we find in the book of Allah is what we will what? Follow. Everybody clear on this or not? Hadith here in the footnotes, the reference. He says, رواه أبو داود في باب لزوم السنة ورجاله كلهم ثقات. وراه أيضا الترمذي في كتاب العلم من جامعه وقال هذا حديث حسن صحيح. Hadith is reported by Abu Dawood and the Tirmidhi, and for the talaba, this is what we call a takhrij, even if it's brief and mukhtasar, the referencing of the hadith, where the hadith is originally, organically found, with the isnad, between the author and between the Messenger of Allah. طيب, as we explained this morning. So the hadith is reported by Abi Rafi' radiyallahu anhu. His name and companion is Abu Rafi'. He says that the Prophet ﷺ said, لا ألفين أحدكم متكئا على أريكته. He said, there should not come a time, let me not find one of you sitting back and relaxing, and he hears about what I said, I commanded or prohibited something, and none of you should say what? I don't know. Whatever I find in the Quran, I will what? I will follow. The general highlighting point from the hadith is what? La, that's not the main. هذا من الفوائد الجانبية, the legal authority of the Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ says, there should not come a time in which someone has this attitude. Whatever's in the Quran, we will regarding to legal issues, but not in the. Everybody understand this? Hadith clearly proves this, that Muhammad's ruling is equal to the ruling of. Everybody clear on this or not? هذا الشاهد من الحديث. This is the highlighting point from the what? From hadith. As far as the balagha or the ijaz, the secrets of the hadith, he says muttaki'an. In this hadith is a subtle, it's a subtle, at the same time clear, dispraise of the pleasures of the worldly life. Being relaxed and comfortable and sitting back, slouched back. Clear on this? That's number one. Number two, even more subtle than that, a beautiful secret from this hadith, is it shows the divine connection between hadith rejection and between worldly greed. Hadith rejection and worldly greed. Most people today, when they reject hadiths, you sit down with them, you talk with them, 9 out of 10 of them is based off of something that they want from the dunya. It's based off of something that they want from what? The dunya. And it is not based off of technical science. That they actually believe in their hearts that it's not a thorough enough science, it's ahad, it's not mutawatir, there's kadhib, there's wala, la abadan. That's on the surface. That's on the what? It's on the surface. But you really sit down and talk with him, you read the book, you read the author where he comes from, you'll find that he only rejected hadith because of something worldly. Pleasing the kuffar. He rejected hadith because of the poor social, political status of his third world country in light of the Western countries. Everybody understand this? Something that he's afraid of, something that he wants of what? Of hayat dunya. Everybody understand this? And this is not something I'm making up. This is not my own deduction. This is actual things I've read and studied and discussed in detail. You'll find people that'll say this. Look at the Muslims. Look at the Muslim militaries. What's the strongest military of the Muslim world? Nothing compared to the worst military of the Western world. Nothing. Well, that's shit. America, UK, Canada, Germany, France. And even worse than that, the strong militaries of the Muslim worlds, or the most advanced and cultivated societies, in most cases are the most what? Furthest from the practice of the deen and the most secular. Say this, look, unzur, look at this takhalluf for the Muslims. And it's because of the hadiths. They caused the Muslims to be prehistoric and left behind the rest of the nations. So the Muslims having a strong military, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Without a question. But at the end of the day, it's still something that's what? Worldly. It's what? It's worldly. Everybody understand this is what? It's worldly. Every country that has a strong military, do they fight wars? No. Oftentimes the strength of the military is nothing more than a means of what? هذا هو. Worldly status. Pomp. فهمتم? Money, living in the countries of the non-Muslims, we have to be accepted. Politics, shaking a woman's hand, the hadith is totally fabricated. Because he wants to do what? Shake the woman's hand. Because I can't go to this office, I can't be this CEO, I can't do this, and I say, I'm sorry, I can't shake your hand. Then I'm looked at as a sexist, as a chauvinist, etc. Everybody understand this? And any other issue, LGBT, and the list goes forward. Dunya. So the worldly life is the asal of this deviation. Everybody understand this? And that's why the Prophet says, muttakiyan ala arikati. He says what? Comfortable. Everybody understand it? هذا انتبه الفائدة هذه لطيفة جدا. It's a very subtle benefit here. Read the next hadith and it'll become even clearer to you what I just said. Moving forward. وعن المقداد ابن معدي كرب. A new reader please. New volunteer. فضل. وعن المقدام ابن معدي كرب المركبة معدي كرب شبعان طيب في الهامش رقم 3 طيب جزاك الله خيرا أحسنت. The next narration is reported by Miqdam ibn Ma'di Karib رضي الله عنه. Listen carefully. انتبه. You stick with me, huh? Yes, you specifically. Yeah. He says, "Ala inni utitu al-Qur'ana wa mithlahu ma'ahu." He says, "Indeed, I've been given the Quran and something similar to the Quran with the Quran. I've been given the Quran and it's like together, ma'ahu, paired. Intabihu. Pay close attention to the language of the Hadith, and that's a science in itself." He says, "Ala yushiku." He says, "Indeed, a time will certainly come. Rajulun shab'an ala arikatihi." There'll be a man whose belly is full, and he's also. That makes a greater interpretation of the first hadith, and that is what? Dunya. Dunya, lavishness, luxury, comfort, pleasures. Everybody understand this? Is that he's full and he's what? Leaning back. The one who's a hard-working person, a serious person, he, in most cases, is not going to get totally full. Let alone eat and then do what? What happens when you eat and sleep? What happens to your body? Salat, fahimtum? Is that the concept of worldly, luxury. Luxury, that's the asal in this. Everybody says, it's not an accident why the Prophet said that. Everybody clear on this? He says in this man, what will he say? Alaykum bihadhan al-Quran. Allahu Akbar. Look at this speech. And look at 2018. And this is to the same thing. It says, stick to this Quran. Why are hadiths made up and fabricated? Why don't they have any status? Because the people have abandoned the what? Wallah al-Azim. I had a debate once. And also a session to help out. Someone has said that for you to say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah is shirk. Shirk akbar. Because you're putting Muhammad's name with Allah's name. And there's no idol worship in Islam. To say that the hadiths are like the Quran, it says idol worship. So the reason why it's wrong and false to say this and do this, the traditional Islam, is because you have abandoned the no. And what is this man going to say in this hadith? Alaykum. That's going to be nothing more than the ruse. That's the game, the trick. Everybody clear on this or not? That's the trick to bring you in. Stick to the Quran. You're not focusing on the Quran enough. Hadith, 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 hadith. Stick to this. He didn't say alaykum bil Quran. He said alaykum bi had this Quran. Everybody understand this? And the Prophet ﷺ, he said what? That this man will say, فَمَا وَجَدْتُمْ فِيهِ مِنْ حَلَالٍ فَأَحِلُّوهُ. Anything that Allah says halal in the Quran, then deem it to be halal. And when Allah says haram in the Quran, then deem it to be haram. What did the Prophet ﷺ say? Look at the answer of the Prophet ﷺ. Look how beautiful this hadith is. He doesn't say don't focus on the Quran. He doesn't say there won't be people who abandon. He doesn't say any of these things. He gives a simple, easy, lucid solution. Ala wa innama harrama Rasulullah kama harrama Allah. He says, indeed, what the Messenger of Allah says is haram is like, that's it. Plain, simple, and easy. There is no contradiction between my ruling and that of Allah. Everybody understand this? You get into an argument, you'll get caught up. No, that's not true. The people haven't abandoned the Quran. And the person says, look, the people have abandoned the Quran. Who's memorized the Quran by heart? Who knows how to recite it properly? Who's reflecting on this? You might get trapped in that. You don't even have to accept that premise. What the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said regarding halal and haram is like what? And the proof of this from the Quran is what? Man yutir. Allah says what? La. No. Faqad. Wama. Allah says, indeed, he who obeys the messenger, faqad. Allah, he is indeed actually what? From the Quran only. Everybody understand this? You refute that false belief from the what? And you show them how ignorant you are of that you're claiming to follow. And wallahi, you sit with many hadith rejectors. I've met a few of them in my life. You open up the mushaf, you show them things, they say, I never even knew that was there. Most of them, 9 out of 10 of them, don't even read Arabic. They can't even read the Quran. They're reading the translation. Everybody understand this? So it's very important to be what, akhi? Sharp with Quran. To be able to quote it when you what? When you want to. Everybody clear on this? Khair, inshallah, we're going to stop here tonight. We'll take just a few questions, 3 questions we agreed upon, and then we will stop. Jazakumullah khairan. This will conclude the first module. Bidnai ta'ala, the next session of the course will be announced So once more, make sure that you stay in touch through the emails. The next course, when it will be, what time it will be, the information, the curriculum, the exams, the assignments, etc. Khairan, inshallah. This was only the first what? Module. Tayyib. As far as any questions that you have, or concerns, or further benefits, suggestions, or even criticism of the course, then please direct all of those emails to Abu Huraira Center, and hopefully they will be dealt with accordingly. Bidnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. Concerns, questions, and also as well, constructive or destructive. Khairan, inshallah. Tayyib, first question. Clear, crystal clear. Fahim su'alak. Tayyib. Question says, a very good question. And alhamdulillah, a good question is representative, or is symbolic of good understanding and good work ethic. A question symbolizes much more than just a question. The way you ask a question, what questions you ask, and when you ask the question, it shows a lot. It shows a what? It shows a lot. And a student of knowledge should work on and develop the proper way of asking a question. The proper akhlaq, the adab, respect, however, the time, and most importantly, how to summarize the question and leave the main points and leave the unnecessary fluff on the outside, because time is limited, energy is limited. Everyone understand this? This is an advanced technique with regards to seeking ilm. It's how to formulate the question what? Properly. How precise, how proper the question is worded, with the respect, the time, the place, the information, so on and so forth. It is going to be a means of feeding energy to the one who's going to answer the question. He's going to feed off it. It's like a pass. Playing basketball. Somebody throw you a what? Quick no-look pass. He's going to make you drop the ball? Or are you going to do what now? Dunk it or anything else. Everybody understand this? It's a very important concept here. It's to develop the skill of asking what? Questions. Tayyib. So, the question says, you mentioned in the fork in the road, with regards to the technical definitions, or the scholars of hadith, and the scholars of fiqh, and the scholars of aqidah, they use the term and the word sunnah or hadith, etc. So what happens when we have a later scholar who is a specialist in hadith, and also a specialist in fiqh, such as An-Nawawi, etc. We say that, first and foremost is, for a person to specialize in more than one science, in general, especially in our times, is a rarity. That's awalan. Number two, it's even more rare when a person specializes in more than one science and doesn't have a stronger inclination to one from among the others, or in which that science has a clear rubbing off effect, a shedding effect on his understanding and practice of those other sciences. So specialize in hadith, fiqh, and tafsir. What are the chances that my love, my passion, my skill, and my efforts are equal in all three? 0 to none. There has to be one that's what? No question. Everybody understand this or not? In most cases, there has to be one that's what? I have 4 children. I love all of them. I look after all of them. I take care of all of them. But there's one who's my favorite. In most cases, I love what? All of my children. But my other 3 children are not like my firstborn, or not like my only son, or not like my only daughter. This is, in most cases, this is the fact. So, a Nawawi or any other scholar that has several different takhasusat, he's going to have a sabgha ghaliba. It's going to be a dominant shade in color. And there lies no doubt that was fiqh upon a Nawawi. That was fiqh. Clearness. So his skill in fiqh, his tadallu in fiqh Shafi'i specifically, bila shak, is going to have a direct effect and an indirect effect on his understanding and practice of hadith. So just because he gives a definition doesn't mean that's the most organic definition or practice or understanding. Let alone the century in which he lived, the 7th century is not like the 3rd century. Everybody understand this? Wallahu a'lam. Who, you had one? Who, we said 3 questions. Aywa, we said this. We only have time for 3. We clearly asked, are there any what? Questions. We said that. Naam? Fadl Adam. We never said they drink warm water. That's what we said. Give me back what I what? What I gave you. This is a principle of studying. Give the teacher back what he what? Don't bring other information unless you're asked. And that's also from the concept of emptying your cup. Faddal. Tayyib. First question says, or the first part of the question is, you mentioned certain reciters of the Quran avoid drinking cold water. As if you're asking why? Tayyib. When I was in the Prophet ﷺ city, I had many good friends who were expert Quran reciters. Young, older, different nationalities, different backgrounds. And they were talented and they were skilled. Not all of them, but many of them said, or not even said, the first time it happened, I offered a brother some spring water in Saudi. It's very hot. And he shunned it, like, no, 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 no. Like, don't even bring that close to me. Don't even offer me any ice cold spring water. Then later on, talking to different people, sitting with them, some of them, not all of them, once more, we never said all of them. Some of them said that drinking cold water has an effect upon your throat, your tongue, your vocal cords. And if someone is a reciter of the Quran who's talented and skilled, he needs every single small, tiny, minute ounce of what? Ability to reach perfection. Someone who's not a reciter of the Quran is different. I drink cold water. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm not of that talent, that ability. Someone who's in the middle, no big deal. But someone who's a qari, mutqin, and he has a sweet voice that Allah blessed him with naturally. Every single small tweak and creak and thing makes a what? Huge difference. Makes a what? Huge difference. Everybody understand this? With regards to if you're memorizing all day and you drinking honey or eating this type of gum or eating salmon or this type of fish or this thing that helps your memory, you say green tea, that little small extra 5% means a what? Means a huge, huge, huge amount to someone who's busy doing something. Like genetically modified food or engineered food in a laboratory. Why do they have to put enzymes of a pig in cheese or bread or pills or all types of things? You'd be shocked if you go to the supermarket and you find out things that actually have enzymes of a pig. The intestines, the blood, the flesh, etc. Not necessarily saying that that's absolutely haram. We never ever said that either. You can't have sushi in Toronto because it all has some type of pork in it. Al-Muhim, the point we're trying to get to is, you're going to say, why is there al-cysteine in donuts? Why do they have to put duck feathers, crushed up duck feathers in donuts? Tim Hortons, Dunkin' Donuts. Why do they have to use feathers of a duck to make a donut? Because you're not making 1 million donuts a year. You're not making millions and millions of dollars. Every single dollar, every single expense that's cut is a major what to you? Major fa'idah. Because you're doing it on a huge, gargantuous scale. So any small, tiny shortcut that you can make to make a better product, quicker product, a tastier product, faster product, more money, the smart, shrewd businessman is going to what? He's going to do it. But to the layman, he's going to say, what's the big deal? Why you got to put that in there? Why does it have to have pig blood and pizza cheese? You don't understand it, but this is all we do every day, all day, every day. We make millions of dollars off of cheese for pizza. So we need every single small what? Nook and cranny and trick. So that's the Quran reciter of that level of devotion and dedication, whether it's a food or drink or sleep habit, certain things they just don't do because it has an effect on their voice. They don't have a raspy, scruffy type of voice. As far as the proper way of asking the question, then it's not enough time for me to teach you that right now. If I decided to even teach you that, maybe something you may have to learn by yourself. Inshallah ta'ala. Listen, watch, pay attention, observe. Perhaps Allah Azza wa Jalla will allow you to get that skill. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. May Allah bless you and give you success. The last question was by, well, we said we're only taking 3. We clearly said, are there what? Any questions? No one raised their hands. Tafaddal. Question says, with regards to hadith grading system, you mentioned that they have to be of age. What about the young companions such as Ibn Abbas that narrated things when they weren't of age? A very good question, just like the other 2 questions. First and foremost is, we never specified that age. We never specified that age because the information about hadith grading and hadith terminology, that's not a part of our course. That was only on the side. There was a garnish on the plate. That wasn't the main course. We have explained this, and others as well, but I'm just talking about what I'm responsible for. We have explained this and other lessons on Mustalah Hadith. Clear or not? So you can go back to that. As far as the answer now, in the two different meanings of age, two meanings. One is a tamyiz, and the other is actual bulugh. One is discernment, and one is actual pubescent age. When a person, a young child, boy or girl, can discern, they can figure things out. 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, they're not in puberty yet, but they get an idea of certain things that go on in life. Everybody understand this? They get an idea of certain things that go on in life. Such as the sister side and the brother side. I have a 2-year-old son, a 3-year-old son. I say, go give this message to your ummi. He goes and he runs over to the sister side. He doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't know this one and that one. But my 6-year-old son or 7-year-old son, he goes over there. He's not in puberty yet, but he understands this sister is tall, this sister is short. She's light, she's dark, she's pretty. I already know. He understands what's going on. Yumayyiz. He can discern certain things so that he shouldn't go on the sister side. He shouldn't be mixing with the women. Wahakada. You send him to the store. You give him a $20 bill. You say, bring me back a loaf of bread. The 7-year-old comes back with a loaf of bread, like you asked. He said, where's the change, son? He said, there's no change. You never told me to bring back change, Abby. You told me to get you a loaf of bread. And the 10-year-old son, he comes back, or the 11-year-old daughter, she comes back with the store with the bread and the change. Hadi mumayyiza. They are of an age of discernment. They can understand what's going on and actually accurately report things. I remember when I was a little kid, my Abby did this. When I was a little kid, my Abby put me on his neck and gave me a piggyback ride. Everybody understand this? You can't necessarily remember that when you're 2 or 3. You may remember it subconsciously, yes. Subconsciously, but you can't remember consciously. Everybody understand this? So the ulama of hadith, they had no problem with accepting the narration of a sabi al-mumayyiz, the child that is of the age of discernment. Everybody understand this? However, the child or the age of puberty is a bit different. 12, 13, 15, 16, whatever that age is. What are the signs of puberty? When does a woman become pubescent, a male, etc.? What's important is that's a different story. They're of age. And there's a difference. هناك فرق بين التحمل وبين الأداء. هناك تحمل وهناك أداء. التحمل يشترط فيه إيش؟ سنه إيش؟ تمييز. وأما الأداء والتبليغ فيشترط فيه إيش؟ البلوغ. In other words, for the narrator to see something and to accept, to take it, he has to be of the age at least of what? Tamyiz. 6, 7, 8. There's no restriction to the age. But for him to pass it on to others and it to be accepted and taken, he must be of the age of at least puberty. For him to. So that's what's meant by being of age. So I saw something when I was 7. I was aware of what was going on. But it isn't accepted in Hadith Science until I'm 15, 13, whenever I'm in puberty. Wadah? And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Jazakumullahu khairan for your time, for your attention, and for your respect. Until the next session, may you be protected by Ar-Rahman.